Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's Wednesday, it's the middle of the week. It's time for us to talk a little bit about Warframe. How are we all doing? Hello guys, hello one and all, how are we all doing? Let me just make sure I get everything in the right place because I think I accidentally knocked something whilst grabbing my tea. There it is, that's fixed now. Alright, cool. We're all good there. Hello there, Enjabi, hello Cop, hello there, Haptogamer, hello there, Dude Turkey. I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce your name, but there we go, we'll go with that. Hello, Tilly.
Woo 5 months.
Oh. Tilly, cheers for the 5 months. Thank you very much for resubscribing there. One away from that gold badge. Thank you very much, Tilly. Hello there, Cosmo. Hello, Giddlitz. Hello there, Red. Hello there, Beardface. Hello, Zom. Hello, Carbon. Hello there. Ooh, we've got a few other names as well. Hello there, Zabot. Hello there, Quintus. Hello, War Daddy. Hello there, Leone. Hello there. Oh, how's that? Airsoft Sniper. I don't know why for a moment your name just blurred for me. I don't know what went on there, but I just could not read it for a second. I think my eyes are messing up again. Hello, Adam Malik. Hello, Snake Raider. Hello, Pezzy. How are we all doing? How are we all doing, guys? And a hydrate as well from Snake Raider. Cheers. Hey, are you going to be a spicy stream? I figured a few of you might want to hear about bits and pieces about AoE. I figured you guys might want to have a bit of a discussion. Now, before we get into a whole load of things, if you're expecting there to be some big announcement from DE because of this, no. I'm talking about this, not DE. I'm not part of them. So if you're expecting an announcement, if expecting some kind of solution right now, no, this is a discussion. This is what comes before solutions, hopefully. Hopefully. Fingers crossed on that, eh? Very tightly crossed fingers on that. But, yeah. We do need to talk about the AoE Meta, mostly because a lot of people want to talk about it. It's kind of tautological. I know it kind of feeds into itself there, but at the end of the day, a lot of people are making more and more noise about it, and in different places too. I'm noticing it more and more. I'm hearing it here on the stream. I'm seeing it on the YouTube comments. I'm hearing it over on Reddit. Yes, I do wade through that cesspool from time to time. So we have got some bits to talk about there. I'd say I missed the days back when I joined during Fortuna, when AoE was basically reserved for Warframe abilities. That's part of what I'm going to be talking about, yeah. That is part of it. Hello there, Friendly Rock Troll. Hello there, Freezing Worm. Hello, Tryers Gone. How you all doing? Alright, so, before we do get diving in on all that, we got to do the usual crucial, you know. We always start off with a good old sortie. So, we're going to be doing that again, as is standard. Let's just get ourselves... Yep, we're already on public, so if you want to be joining in on today's sortie, send me a message in game, like Zon has already done. There we go, perfect. There's only 2 slots remaining now. Get in quick if you want to join me on today's sortie. Yeah, Red, you subbed, you got gifted a sub. If you check at the top of your Twitch, if you're on PC, if you check at the top of your Twitch, it should say you got a gifted sub. You know, you'll see a present icon or a box icon. If you click onto that, you will see who gifted you the sub. So make sure you give a thank you to whoever did that one. Make sure you say thanks to whoever gifted you that sub. Korokop, come on in. I nearly clicked on close all. That's another U I think I would love removed. Look at that. Look how close that is. If I just slightly don't drag my hand far enough, if I'm not careful enough, whether go for close tab or invite, close all is right there. What is up with that? I've complained about that many a time and it's still there. Alright. And there we go. That's our 4th player. Got one more spot to have indeed. Come on in. There we are. So Bradley brought down Team Pro AoE weapons. Fair enough, good to know. Tilly, I feel like D has moved from Warframe having massive AoE for damage for weapons. I mean, they have certainly introduced more AoE weapons. We'll absolutely be going over a lot of the details on that right after we get through the sortie. I want to get the sortie sorted. It's become a tradition, and I do like that tradition. So we're going to get cracking on this one here. We've got a spy mission, radiation hazard, disruption, enemy elemental enhancement, and then a rescue augmented enemy armor. So we've got some interesting ones here. Let's get started with the spy mission. Let's get started with that. Look at the guys' cute profile icons. I know! I even saw one got changed after they joined the squad. Ah, it's lovely. They're trying to hide the fact they don't usually run it. I see. Won't be calling out names, but you know, everyone knows who joined when. It is wonderful to have that glyph all around. It is wonderful. Yet to see one in the wild though, but you know, that's how it goes, I suppose. Just got to tell it Envoy. Nice. Nice. Powerful AoE to have. Is it me or do I have a ephemeral reticle on my screen already? There we go. Alright. let's get cracking on with the sortie, and then I said we'll get into our long discussion today about AoE, because I don't want it to be a monologue, I want it to be a discussion. I want to be listening to what you guys feel about it as well, both innately what you just feel as a matter of course, and then also how you feel about things, taking into account what everyone else is going to be saying here today, including the bits and pieces that I've got to share on the matter, because I've been doing a fair amount of thinking, you know, a fair amount on the topic. Bam, that, by the way, is how you do that without doing anything else. You can just go straight in and hack that one if you're quick enough. Fun fact. But yeah, I've been doing a fair amount of thinking and writing, preparing, and consideration for the last, what, day entirely. Been pretty much just focused on that. Seems that no one's come to be yet, so excuse me, I'll just get onto this. Like I say, I'm really just getting the sortie out of the way here, so if everyone else is just going to walk between the vaults, I'm going to Wukong. I'm 100% going to Wukong. If I could just do this correctly, there we go. And there we are, someone got C. Lovely. That's how you do a spy mission, nice and quickly. Not the quickest, but quick enough. The Xmas units are having a moment, wouldn't do it. Let's see, come say, I love AoE. I think it just highlights the issue of how dumb enemies are. Doesn't D&D DM blame their wizard player for using Fireball on a clump of goblins, when the DM is the one that clumped them up? That's a fair point. It misses a lot of nuance, we'll get to that, but it is a fair point. Ed, say I got Chrome Prime today, realised Chrome was not only nerfed when they removed self-damage, but even more so when they added shield gating. He got nerfed more than that, in fact. So many levels are too fast. Don't worry about it. I'm not trying to take today slow. We're getting through this and onto the good bits and pieces we want to be talking about. Gotta just, you know, get this cracking out of the way. In fact, I'm just going to click that. Sod it. Wukong, Fenmore, everything. It's all good. You always forget Wukong can fly. Would like another flying frame? Zephyr, Titania, anyone who has Arcane Consequence. I mean, there's options. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. It'd be nice if the dragon frame could fly. That would be cool. That would definitely be cool. Hildren can hover. Let's be realistic now. Hildren doesn't really fly. Hildren's ability to go forwards whilst in the air is kind of lacking. It's kind of lacking. I know Zephyr's also much of a hoverer, but Zephyr can use their first ability to at least somewhat uncontrollably move around quickly whilst in the air. Hildren becomes a helicopter with a tether. How they feel. How Pablo explained it once, no matter how smart enemies are, if you're just going to nuke an entire room. Yeah, that's also another part of the bits and pieces. Like, everything's dead, nothing else matters. But we'll get onto all that nuance in just a moment, because, well, to give you guys a little teaser of the conclusions I've been drawing, this was inevitable. Where we are today with AoE, how things play, how there is a an AoE meta, as it were. Oh, I just fell off the map. How there's an AoE meta. This was inevitable because Warframe was designed for this to happen. Fun fact, by the way. Warframe was designed for this AoE meta to happen. It's no accident, or if it was, it is a stupid accident. I literally just survived on like 2 hit points there. I'm not playing Lavos at the moment, and should definitely pay attention to my health. So, yeah. We'll get into all the details. As soon as we're out of the way of the sortie, you can look at things proper. We'll get into all the proper juicy details. I've been researching to back up that statement that the Warframe meta of AoE was designed, even if not intentionally. Oh, and apparently my Thagomizer is dead and gone. Hold up. Can someone explain that one to me? Hang on. My Thagomizer is a Panzer IV Profiler. There you are. Why did it die? Like, vanished off my UI and everything. That's different. I thought... Hello. I thought it was supposed to just sit as a lava by my head and still give me enemy radar, not be dead. That's unusual. I normally use carrier, but this one I left equipped after some testing earlier. Have you missed the juicy stuff? Not at all. We're doing the sortie and then we're getting into the juice. The other reason I'm doing the sortie first is I know that people are still getting here. The stream's always at its quietest right at the start. And that's why we start with something that's, you know, more tradition than necessary. Happens to you all the time? Yeah. You know what pet I have that doesn't die in most missions? Carrier Prime. Like, I don't remember the last time I was in a sortie and went, oh, my carrier's dead. Well, now I don't have enemy radar. And yet, here we are. Second mission of the day, first combat mission of the day, and already my pet has died once. And is probably going to want to do it more times still. And it has more defensive mods than my carrier. Go figure. Oh, I hear it. Oh, that didn't work. Shoot the head, shoot the head, shoot the head! Whoop. Did I take off Life Strike? I think I took off Life Strike. Because I'm not healing. There we are. I'm just going to focus on killing it. I don't care about the extra lives. I must have taken Life Strike off here. Still killed it. Anyway. Think it dies as a lava sometimes as well? Yeah, but it shouldn't. Because it doesn't have hit points as a lava. But sometimes it just vanishes. It's really weird. Love to see enemy AR be more engaging and tactical. Yeah, it's a fair comment. It's a fair comment. I feel like the nature of the enemies makes AoE happen. Interesting comment. Wonder how much health a level 9,999 disruptor has. By disrupt you mean demolisher? A lot. A lot. Yeah, like a lot. Level scaling calms down in terms of health once you pass like level 100, but it's still kind of bonkers. It still keeps being bonkers. And so by level 9,000 it is ludicrously bonkers. I like, there's one. It's another Nox? Oh yeah, we're on to the next round, aren't we? Hi Mr. Nox, can you like stop a sec? That'd be great. Thank you.
Demo unit coming in fast. That thing bows and you can kiss a conduit goodbye.
There we are. Now I remembered how I made this build work. I forgot to use an ability this entire time. I've removed Life Strike? Ah, damn it. This is the problem with me messing with my default setups and not remembering to put them back after testing. Is that I then end up doing stuff like that. I will remove Life Strike to test something and then I'll just forget to put it back on. Like, why am I not healing all of a sudden? Oh! Is this a corrosive heat femoral? Not sure. That looks like corrosive. Not sure. I'll have to double check. It probably is corrosive heat. I just heard multiple hits. Okay, that was weird. There are plenty of missions where using AoE doesn't matter. Ooh, we'll get onto that. We'll get onto that. I mean, this should be an example of one, yeah? How much AoE am I using here? A lot. As in, I'm not. But we'll get cracking onto that. Right as soon as we finish off this sortie. I know I'm goading you guys in, baiting in with the whole, oh, we're having a discussion, and I'm saying, wait a moment. Wait, we'll get there. Don't you worry.
Shiny secured and we're in the wind.
Yeah, this is a corrosive heat femoral with Zarta's Whisper attached, which makes it even more ridiculous. It makes it even more ridiculous. Alright, I suppose we should get our prediction going, because I think the next mission's going to be relatively quick. So, what reward do you think we're going to get from the sortie today, guys? Usually a little blue spanner icon at the bottom of the chat window there to make your prediction. Is it going to be an Asa sculpture? Is it going to be a ribbon? Is it going to be a booster? Or something else entirely? Make your predictions. This is going to be a relatively quick mission, I'm certain of that. Also, I'm going to do that preemptively before I forget. Would be interesting if they add a nuke for the enemy that downs a Warframes if it's not stopped in time. To be honest, that's not something I've heard of as an option before, but yeah, could be curious. We're like, take this down now or everyone dies. Interesting. Hello, Raptor. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Hope you're doing well yourself. After Gamer said, need to apply your builds to my weapons. As I've just started watching you. Ah, fair do. Do be careful. Some of the builds I'm using on stream here will be slightly scuffed, broken, or just left in a state of disrepair from testing purposes. Like, for example, on here, I've got... Is that viral? No, that's magnetic. Oh, good God. What was that? No wonder it was doing absolutely damn nothing. There we go. Now it's a bit fixed. There we are. See, things like that. I had a magnetic glaive prime. I think that must have been from the Nightwave string. God. Oh dear. Tan's saying, sorry, but if when they nerf AoE, they better help frame survivability. Ooh. We're getting a lot of good points coming up already from you guys. A lot of you are very switched on about what's going on with AoE, but it turns out there's a lot of points all at once. Zomtronic, what are you doing? It's a rescue mission. You don't need to think. You got Wukong. That's it. Oh, we're forcing it. I don't know what you're doing, Zom, but we're going. We're going. It's just a sortie, Zom. You've done a million of these. As I'm saying in Twitch chat, I'll be honest, I've heard this discussion go in circles many times now, so so many bad suggestions. I find it more annoying than the actual problem. Well, if you listen to random suggestions from random people, yeah. Like people who think they have an idea as to what's wrong and therefore start talking about how to solve that one part. Not thinking about the entire picture, which is why I don't have an answer. It's why no one has a solid answer, because it's not one answer. Not one. The vote didn't show up for you? Oh, Zom. Zom. Not just not voting, but you're straight up skipping the vote? That is inexcusable, Zom. How dare you not have the vote come up? That is a personal failing right there, don't you know? God, Zom. It's fine. Oh, I'm already here. Wukong Metricals don't think you've got Wukong. Yeah, I don't even use his clone half the time. I just go.
The hostage is almost airtight.
Alright, let's get through this and then we'll be out of the sortie and able to go over the rest. That is shut. That way was shut. The way is shut and the dead keep it. I always forget which way I'm supposed to go on this tile. Not gonna lie, I always forget. Here we go. Just let everything explode, then come out of the cloud. Oh, by the way. Goodbye. This one. Alright, I can hear you. There you go. Saved you. Just in time. Let's go. Let's go. Oh god. Wait, what? No, what? Every waypoint just broke for a second there. There we are. This way out. Yeah, Wukong is good. Wukong is good. You always forget there's a door you can actually open? Yeah, I never looked into figuring out the other routes on that one. I've just done it. I just always go around until I find the door. And today we get a pistol ribbon. There we go. Those of you who thought it'd be a ribbon, you're absolutely correct. There you are. Enjoy a bunch of extra channel points. Looks like you're getting about Ooh, nearly 4 times as many back. Squirbo's laughing. There you are, Squirbo. You just got yourself a few thousand spanners right there. There we are. Lovely. Alright, guys. Let's get talking. Let's get talking. Cosmo. Ah, you didn't have the faith, Cosmo. You didn't have the faith. No. You let Squirbo take it from you. That's what happened. You let Squirbo take it from you. Android saying, one of the things I'm fed up with is people trying to argue Overguard is bad just because AoE was not nerfed first. Overguard is a question of allowing Xmas to exist versus nerfing crowd control slightly. Is that worth it? I think yes. AoE is an issue Xmas any rare unit can anyway not fix. I feel like you're getting onto some of a point there, Android. Not quite catching it. I feel like you're part way onto the point there. Part way. What's my Wukong build? Oh yeah, let's bring that up. Yeah, let's bring that up. There you go. That's my Wukong build. That is my sod it. I don't care what mission I'm going into. This just kind of works build. If I need to have some more damage, well, I've got myself Zarta's Whisper, and I've got myself Arcane Avenger. If something's touching me, I'm going to have extra crits, and I've got extra damage just ready to go. Growing Power means if I really need that, I'm going to have even more going. Otherwise, the entire idea is duration to make this last as long as I can get it to last. 5.5 seconds is quite a long time, a Cloud Walker. And preparation meaning when I spawn in, I just have energy for days. Job done. That works. So yeah, this build just kind of makes it all go together. But yeah, guys, let's have a talk about AoE. First of all, I want to put a poll onto this, just to get our starting ideas. We got, what, 70 odd people here at the moment. Let's get our starting ideas with a very simple poll. Do you think AoE Meta is a problem? A very simple binary yes or no on this one. Do you think AoE Meta is a problem? Here's your poll. Give you guys a minute on answering on that one. Do you think AoE Meta is a problem? Just straight up that as a sentence, not with any nuance behind it, not with any more thinking, just off the top of your head right now, your gut feeling, do you think AoE Meta is a problem? If you've already researched it, then you already have a gut feeling based on research. If you haven't, then okay, whatever. Do you think the AoE Meta is a problem? I'm going to say that one about 1,000 times over the course of this poll. Oh, I'm seeing it wavering slightly towards the no side so far, but it might just be a few people haven't quite got to their vote button as yet. Tari Hell saying yes, but also no, but also yes. Does it appear for you? Check at the top of your chat, Leone. Check at the top of your chat. Or if you're on mobile, God knows. God knows. Alright. So it is a 58 to 42 split. So 2 in 5 people feel that AoE is a problem, 3 in 5 don't feel it's a problem. That's interesting. Honestly, I figured it would have been the other way around. Like pretty much a direct flip of those votes, but there we are. It isn't exactly the most in-depth of polls we got there, but yeah. 3 out of 5 people said no, AoE Meta's not a problem. That's quite interesting. Black Guy Playing saying, the engineer, the quantifier behind me answering yes. I have severe vision issues, so technically AoE should be an asset to me, but I don't feel like I'm allowed to play the game because by the time I see what's going on, other people have nuked the map. That's another interesting point. Yeah, alright, so let's get cracking on this, guys. We've danced around the edge of it so far. And let's get into the real meat of it. Just so we don't get kidnapped, because, you know, zombies terrible. We have to watch out for them. They're a cheeky one. Now you're fine, Zom. Let's just drop the solo for a moment and have a proper talk about this, shall we, guys? So, first things first, and cheers on the hydrate there, Trousgon. First things first, as I mentioned during the sortie there, this AoE meta as we currently have it was designed. This was made to happen. It's not something that's just been stumbled into. It's not a meta that has snuck upon us. Repeated changes over the years of Warframe, constant design decisions have led us to this moment for a very long time. A very long time. What kind of tea do I drink? I drink an English breakfast tea, typically, yeah. Milk, no sugar. I've been writing down a lot of stuff about this. I've been writing down quite a bit. In fact, I have gone through, in standard 12-point font, let me see here, 13 pages and counting so far of trying to put my thoughts into words. A lot of it repeats and whatnot, but, you know, really stumbling through all of my understanding as to the situation we find ourselves in. I'm just going to move over my screens here, but I can still leave you guys with the Warframe scene, because let's face it, lots of drones going around is always fun. Whether designed or not, you still subjectively dislike it? Yeah, that's fair enough, Gidlex. When I say designed, I don't mean that it is necessarily intended to be like it is. I don't say that it is good how it is. I'm just describing that it is designed this way. Let me fill you in on why I say that. First of all, have a look at the missions we actually have in Warframe. Have a look at the missions that we have. As far as I can tell, you can basically break up the missions into 3 types. You can break up the missions into either ones where you don't have to kill anything. That is, for example, rescue. That is, for example, sabotage. That is, for example, spy missions. You go into those missions, any killing is entirely optional, aside from, you know, they're trying to kill you. But if you were just immortal, if you had no worries about defense whatsoever, you could just walk through, do the mission, walk out. Job done. The second type of mission has a limited number of kills required. The mission concludes when you have got this many kills. So, for example, that is a defense mission. Once you have killed the enemies in a wave, the wave completes. It is an exterminate mission. Once you've killed the needed enemies from an exterminate, the mission completes. There is some variability within that, but they are a limited number of kills. You get this far, job done. Capture is one of them. You kill one enemy, job done. And then the third type of mission is where you kill a limitless number of enemies, where killing the enemies isn't itself the objective. Instead, the killing of enemies is what allows the objective to proceed in a smoother fashion. So say, for example, with excavation, you need to kill some amount of enemies to get the power cells, and otherwise, killing enemies is just allowing you to excavate more successfully. You look at survival. You can survive to an extent off the survival towers, but killing more enemies, killing them more quickly, means you can survive just off the life support capsules they drop. So there are 3 styles of mission, breaking it down in that way of categorizing things. No more pick a frame? Nah, I've turned it off for the while, Chicken Noodle. Don't know when I'll bring it back. So taking that so far then, guys. Taking that so far, would you say I'm missing any bit there, or is that a fair categorization as to 3 mission types in the game? Because then, taking that into account, if you've got a mission where you don't need to do any killing, like I say, spy, rescue, that kind of thing, then AoE versus targeted weapons doesn't matter. Snore? Cheers. If you don't need to kill anything, then your weapons don't matter. Use whatever you like, it doesn't actually improve how well you're going to do the mission. Nothing stops you at that point. There is a little bit of variance there in that how you handle the other challenges matter, and that actually favours AoE. In a spy mission, if you know there is a camera around the corner, you can't usually shoot it with targeted weapons, but AoE weapons can splash onto the camera. In a sabotage mission where you've got to take out multiple cells at once, you can shoot them bap, 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 bap with a targeted weapon, or you just detonate the general area and they all shatter. AoE speed targeted is fun. Oh, no, I don't agree with that, Hacked Gamer. Nope, you do not get to tell people that they are not having fun with AoE. That is a lie. You may not have it, but you do not get to decide if someone is having fun or not just because they're using AoE. That's wrong. Other people have already said here, some other people have already said, they enjoy the AoE meta. So no. Targeted doesn't mean fun. You may find it fun, but it doesn't mean it. Anyway, moving on to the second type of mission, you've got the mission where killing a fixed number of enemies completes the mission. So, for example, as I say, a defense mission, you kill a set number of enemies, wave completes. Exterminate, you kill a set number of enemies, mission completes. and so on and so forth. In those ones, the faster you kill the enemies, the sooner the mission completes. It doesn't give you more enemies to deal with, it just says, alright, job done. So anything that kills the enemies faster means you complete the mission faster, and if you complete the mission faster, you get rewards faster. You are rewarded for completing the mission as quickly as possible. Bear that in mind. Too many drones? It's only 171, it's not that bad. My computer handles it. Hell, I'm not even looking at the drones right now. I've got another screen going up at the same time. Hey, no, Bradley, it doesn't sound sarcastic. If that's what you say you enjoy, that you enjoy. You enjoy that, absolutely. Some people do enjoy AoE. In fact, just to remind you guys, in case anyone has forgotten about the types of weapons that I use, my most used primary weapon, the Foreman, is a type of AoE. It is a multi-target weapon. It has infinite body punch through and a wide projectile. It carves through corridors. My most used is an AoE weapon. My second most used is an AoE radial weapon, the highest point of the meta as we have today. Prior to that, and prior to the domination of the Foreman for my account, I used the Amprex, which is itself a multi-target weapon. What we have here is the lowest form of multi-target, chaining, the medium form of multi-target, clearing through a corridor with a wide projectile, and then I have the modern multi-target, which is just straight up AoE. My melee as well, 20.9% of usage, is another AoE weapon. Secondary, I have an amazing room for the Comac, so that doesn't count the same. That doesn't count quite the same, but then if you look at my next two, we got the Icarius and Kuva Core. Yep. Do I have an updated Foreman build or just look at my old build? Let me just put this passively onto a build screen for you whilst we continue talking. Let me just grab the current go-to standard Foreman. Yeah, this just handles like the majority of normal stuff that I come across. If you don't have the Riven, you can just replace it with Prime Cryo rounds, call it a day. Honestly, it'll still work. This handles basic stuff. And then when I go onto the Steel Path, I switch out to this for the Grineer. Switch out the Bane as needed for other stuff. And likewise, if you don't have the Riven, Prime Cryo rounds will work just fine for you, or you can get, for example, Hammer Shot, because it again fits the polarity. If you have a different polarity, you can try different things, but this works. It's not amazing, the Foreman is weaker than other options these days, but it works as far as you can take the Foreman. You redeemed a Hydrate? Oh, I missed the redeem of the Hydrate. Leonie, there you are. Cheers. Natruk's my favourite bow, it's like firing whole trees at people. Yeah, Natruk is a multi-target weapon. Much like the Foreman, it fires a wide projectile with infinite body punch through, and so it just keeps going and carves through multiple enemies at once. You compare that to the likes of normal punch through, like I have on my Tenora here. My Tenora I have modded with Prime Shred, 2.2 punch through. That's enough to go through multiple enemies, and yet, except in ideal corridors, that punch through just doesn't happen. It just doesn't. Internal bleeding better than 100 munitions on the Foreman? Yes, because the Foreman has forced impact procs in close range, and you should be using the Foreman in close range. So it just comes out better, Bradley. It just comes out better. Alright. So let's take this further then. We've talked about the missions and how fixed kill counts makes for faster missions, makes for more rewards. That means that AoE lends itself towards that because AoE, as we know, kind of hits more enemies at once. And then you've got, as I say, the other type of mission, unlimited kills. It doesn't really matter how many enemies you kill then. If you kill 5 or 50 or 500 enemies in a excavation mission, so long as you got the power cells, you're fine. Same goes for a let's see, what other types of missions we got here? I had a list of them broken into those categories. Where did I put that? Where did I put that? Oh, I gotta scroll. Like I say, 13 pages of notes. I've been really digging into this. I've been going through Reddit posts and whatnot, trying to see what bits and pieces people have gone on about. Here we are. So, to kill as many enemies as you want, you've got Disruption, Excavation, Infested Salvage, Sanctuary Onslaught, Survival, Void Cascade, and Void Flood. Cascade and Flood are slightly different, but yeah. Teddy's saying, I don't hate AoE as much as I dislike the way AoE is presented. Rammer is literally just a carpet bomb with a few training weapons, but if AoE was presented in a more interesting way, such as ricocheting or AoE with conditions, it would be well healthier than a push M1 to nuke. Valid point. Valid point. Andrew said, I feel like many people super fed up with AoE don't realise that any playstyle has to get tiring after enough grinding. AoE is still important to consider, but always better to not blame AoE for the minimum inevitable amount of burnout. That's a half point again. That's a half point. You're catching the edges of stuff. I don't know if you're trying to like answer the edges rather than catching the full points themselves, because you think the full point is obvious, but you're catching half points there, Android. You're catching half points on them. Are bounty stages not considered in the category list? Bounty stages I'm leaving out because they're weird. Bounties are weird. They've got different cases going on. I literally have in my notes here written down, bounties are a special case, but they can be considered the last type, the endless amounts of kills type, because they'll include that type of mission at one point or another. So I actually have that written down here. They are a special case because of how bounties are just multiple missions smushed together. Why nerf AoE when you can remove it? We'll skip past jokes like that for now. We'll skip past. Yeah, Android, I'm looking at the full picture because niches don't work when we're having a discussion like this. We got 109 people here right now. Amazing, by the way. I love seeing that kind of figure. But yeah, we need to look at the full picture if we're going to talk about it. To talk about just niches is an unfinished discussion. It's just completely unfinished. So, getting back to the reason that AoE is... the AoE meta is by design, we've got the types of missions. Now, basically, that comes down to either you're not killing, so your weapon type doesn't matter, or you've got a fixed kill, so whatever kills more faster is better, or you've got unlimited kills, but then you've got, say, survival, where you kill more, you get more life support. Excavation, you kill more, they're not shooting your excavator. You've got, what's it, infested salvage, the more and faster you kill, the more you get the injector serum to keep it all topped up and running. AoE makes those missions smoother, even if they don't necessarily make them faster. Basically, faster kills, less reliance needed on defense and control. Again, Android, bounties are bounties are bounties. They're a special case because they are multiple missions squished together. I did just say that, my dude. I did just say that. Alright. So, if AoE is being considered a problem by, what, 40% of the community, we had the vote of it, it was 40% of people here said AoE is a problem, why not do both? You know, why don't we try and move towards a meta where we use both types, where your loadout contains an AoE weapon and a non-AoE weapon? Why don't we make that an option? So if you only use a AoE weapon, or only use a single target, you are accepting at that point then the issues of sticking to just that one type. Well, imagine if this was my loadout for a typical mission. Tenora Prime and Zagara's gift, which is the Spore Lacer. I'm going to get rid of the glaive because him swinging it around is doing my nutting. There we are, thank you. There's a problem with this. If I was to keep switching between these two weapons, say if I use the Tenora Prime for most stuff, but then the Spore Lacer when I had serious clusters of enemies, or if I use the Spore Lacer for most stuff and Tenora Prime for high value targets that are resistant to AoE, neither of those things would actually work at the higher level. Neither of them. Because if I'm maining Tenora Prime, and so I am using Galvanized Chamber and Primary Merciless, I'm focusing on those, if I then switch over to my Spore Lacer, well, I've done some testing with it earlier. You can see I was testing this very concept. If I had my secondary Merciless or Dexterity or whatever else, I have my secondary Arcane, if I swap into this, that's not charged, this ain't charged. So if I'm maining this one, that one's not charged to its full power. If I'm maining this one, that one's not charged to its full power. So that's one element of balancing that forces towards AoE already, because if you have to choose between AoE and single target, you're going to stick to one of them. And what we've already said is that, well, sticking to single target, you're slow at killing. Sticking to AoE, you actually just get the job done. So that already adds an element which, by design, says use more AoE. That pushes us towards it. AoE in further design has had all of its drawbacks removed. Do I think that adding enemies with extreme amounts of health would help single target weapons? No, I don't think it would. No, I don't think that is the right solution. I'll cover that in a moment. Was Revenant before or after self-damage? Revenant existed before self-damage was removed, yeah. Would it be fair to differentiate between different types of AoE to find the issues? We'll work our way through that right now, but trust me. Like I say, I said over on the Discord, this is a big topic. If any single person here thinks right now one single detail will solve everything, you are naive. If not, straight up moronic. But I'm going to say naive. If you think there is just one single solution that will fix everything, you're completely blind to just how much is going on in the AoE meta. Remember, nearly 60% of people in this chat that voted said it's not a problem. But 40% of people do believe it is, which means if you are making one change to appease that 40%, the 60% of people are going to be looking at like, well, hang on. I was enjoying that. So you have to be very careful and think about the full picture. There is no one answer. I'll just say one thing I've ever seen, the only thing I've ever seen help single target weapons has been making AoE ones straight up not work at all. That's a bad solution. That's a very bad solution. I'll come to that. But with AoE, think about AoE in other games. Compare AoE in other games, any kind of shooter, to what we have here in Warframe. Compare those different bits and pieces. For example, ammo limitations. If you load up Halo, for example, you pull out the rocket launcher. How many rockets do you have? Do you have enough rockets to continue firing your rocket launcher for the entire mission? Not even counting PvP. Just the entire mission. You don't have enough rockets for that. But in Warframe you do. With ammo mutation, with pizzas, with dispensary, with transmutation probe, you will have enough rockets to keep going. In fact, I tested this earlier. I ran with the Tenet Envoy without any scaling upgrades. So I had normal split chamber, I had no arcane on it, just the Tenet Envoy with an old school modding, and I breezed through a Corpus Steel Path mission on Pluto. The Sonora Prime, on the other hand, struggled because ammo just ran out. That's Rock with unlimited ammo? Yeah. Halo doesn't have ammo mutation mods? I know, that's what... Sir Jellybeans, what? Did you just enter the chat right as I mentioned Halo and missed everything else I said? Anyway, moving on from that. Attempt at a response, I'm not sure. Yeah, ammo limitations don't exist in Warframe. What happened to my face? What do you mean what happened to my face? Jacker, that's rude. Another thing that you'll find in a lot of games is collateral damage. If you fire off a rocket launcher in a crowded room full of your allies, you will kill your allies. Or you'll kill your objective. Or you will blast a hole in the side of the spaceship, shattering the glass and venting everyone into space. Or you'll kill yourself. Collateral damage exists in a lot of games, saying you've got to be a little bit more careful with that AoE, mate. But in Warframe, you don't have to care about that. So Jellybeans, if you don't understand what a comparison is as part of a fuller discussion, this isn't the discussion for you then, mate. This is a very big topic, and if you're going to stick on, oh, but no, Halo doesn't have ammo mutation. Yes, that's the point! Yes, that is exactly the point. Of course, Halo doesn't have ammo mutation and Warframe does, and that's part of the discussion. Christ on a bike. Anyway. Apples to oranges. One of the worst counter-arguments I've ever come across, because apples and oranges are both fruits. You're not comparing apples to stars. Yeah. Going beyond that, another aspect of AoE which is a problem in a lot of games, mentioned already as part of collateral damage, is self-damage. We don't have self-damage here in Warframe. We don't have self-damage at all. It's gone. They intentionally removed it. And likewise, we got self-stagger in its place, but let's be honest now. Self-stagger has been basically removed for anyone who's at a higher level. basically at a high level, it's gone. Yates 2 words, Sir Jellybean. Cheers, Melody. So, those sticking points for AoE, they're gone. They're just gone. Ammo limitations, for example, the Kuva Brahma started with 15 arrows at maximum. It got nerfed down to 5, and now we're back up to 10 because of the arcane. You can get that to, I think it's 12 with Carrier. A high level mean logging 4 times? Yeah, if you've logged in 400 times, you're probably at a high level. If you're not, wondering what you've been doing for 400 days. But yeah. But it's not just for Prime Sure-Footed. If Prime Sure-Footed is the only way you can think of removing Stealth Stagger, again, you're not looking at the fuller picture. Do I have a clear stance on AoE as a problem? I think it is a discussion worth considering. I don't conclude until I've fully considered stuff. I'm in the camp of, okay, this needs looking at, not it's a problem. Reign, you're a special case and you know it. You do this to yourself all the time. Lavos gets status immunity. When he has status immunity, he is also immune from self-stagger. You're looking for example Trinity. With Link, immune to it. Revenant can be just immune to it constantly. With Rhino, can be immune to it constantly. With Gauss, can be immune to it constantly. Harrow can be temporarily immune to self-stagger. Nezha can be constantly immune to it. Various frames therein, Titania, and by extension everyone thanks to her infusible ability, can be immune to stealth stagger, and so on and so forth. So, self stagger, it's easy avoided. It doesn't take much at all to avoid it. In fact, most of the ways to avoid a stealth stagger also means you avoid lots of other negatives found throughout the game, including enemies staggering you, or grappling you, or just knocking you around the place, or applying status effects which can be very detrimental to you. Gone. So it's actually quite the positive. It's not a heavy sink to throw into, you can just do it. Yeah, Onairu. I actually forgot about that. Yeah, Onairu now has the ability to just say, nah, we're not going to deal with that. Grants immunity to slow, stagger, and knockdown effects for 40 seconds after transferring between one or the other. Yeah. Gooseberry saying, AoE explosion equals carnage, carnage equals fun. There's a vote in favour of AoE, yeah. Problem with having a clear stance, it's a bad idea unless you have the statistics represent the entire player base. Even the question of self-damage being an acceptable way of weakening AoE can technically only be answered with a poll from people who've experienced both. Kinda. I wouldn't just poll people because to not put too fine a point on it, the average person sucks at game design. Really. The average person sucks when it comes to game design because they have their perspective and just run with that. And votes on majority perspective, not really the best way to do it. Not really the best way to do it. No, it comes from a lot more research than just polling people who've experienced bits. It comes from a lot more than that. So, the drawbacks to AoE that we'd expect from other games, ammo limitations, collateral, self-damage, even just staggering yourself, destroying your objective, all of that lot don't really exist in Warframe, and yet all the benefits still do exist. AoE has a high radius, it affects a very large area, in fact an incredibly large area in this day and age. Someone mentioned the lens a moment ago. I saw a comment slide by about the lens. The lens here. Let's see. Just remind myself. I've not actually looked at the lens in a hot minute. Radial attack has a range of 7.2. Okay. And then if I go to the Envoy, the radius on this one is now up to 8. So that's an increase. And the Brahma, which has bomblets that fling out from there afterwards, by the way. Brahma has 8.3. Okay. So we're seeing there that there's an increase in range. On top of that, do y'all remember this mod right here? This didn't used to exist. Primed Firestorm, improving the blast radius of weapons with radial attacks to 66% higher. Whereas if we compare to normal Firestorm, I haven't even got it fully modded, but we can see, yeah, it goes 6, 18, that'll be 24%. So the Prime version took us from 24% to 66% increase. on top of the increasing AoEs. Range has been getting bigger and bigger on AoEs. AoE weapons specifically, it's been getting bigger and bigger. So that's a big benefit for AoE. That's not a debuff, that's not a negative or anything, that's literally, it's just getting bigger. AoE radial attacks usually have complete wall penetration. They don't care how much is in the way, they just hit. They just go straight through. These weapons tend to be pretty high damage. Now, we've covered this one before now, but this really is one of the ones that absolutely confuddles me. You look at Tutorial Prime here, okay? I've got this Tutorial Prime pretty well modded up. I would like to think the majority of you would look at this build and go, you know what, yeah, for a machine gun like the Tenora Prime, that's probably where you want it to be. I've got it set to magnetic because I used it against the Corpus earlier. So, that was, yeah, it would be that way around. This was set up against the Corpus. Let's think about this against the Corpus. Going for magnetic, tearing through their shields, because they get really high shields. Just how much damage does this actually technically put out? Skipping damage type modifiers, using the high damage approach here. What value does this actually get to? Well, let me help you out on that. Where's my calculator? Here it is. Why not use Toxin against the Corpus? Because I was testing both with Toxin and with Magnetic. But Magnetic build, because of Prime Cryo rounds, will give us bigger numbers for demonstration purposes. What if Prime Firestorm buffed the actual area by the amount, not the radius? That would create a very unusual situation where the radius wouldn't increase the same amount for different weapons. People would be very confused, Carbon. I mean, you're right, it would make it weaker, but it would just also be really weird to handle. Kind of like how the accuracy stat is kind of meaningless to people. But let me point out just how much damage this deals. And in fact, to help out with that, let me just briefly switch around my screens here. Bit. Let's open up a notepad, shall we? Who doesn't love a good notepad every now and then, eh? We all love a good notepad. So, what have we got here? We have got a total damage with the current multi-shot of 434.1. Flashbang, yeah, those of you who are living in a dark room and looking at just the light on your screen, turn on your room light, help your eyes out. 434.1 damage per shot at base here. Now, that is taking into account the multi-shot, which is currently 1.8, but maxed out that's actually 3.3. So what we'd have to do is divide that by 1.8 and multiply it by 3.3. With the extra damage itself, we've got Serration on here, but then Primary Merciless would come into play. So the way we figure that out is we divide it by 2.65 and then multiply it by the total bonuses together, which is 6.25. Notepad sponsored stream. I love a notepad. It's a great way of quickly referencing details. So that gives us our actual damage per shot with the multi-shot and damage fully scaled up. Then we've got to take into account the fire rate, which is 17.10. And then we want to take into account the average critical hit, which is 1 plus the critical chance multiplied by, I know I'm not using asterisk, but it's fine, multiplied by 1 less than the critical multiplier. Believe me, that's how average crit calculation works out, in a very simple manner. And lastly, to help us out here, we've got Prime Bane of Corpus, so we can multiply that again by 1.55 for the 55% bonus against the Corpus. So this here, let's multiply that out then. 434.1, divide by 1.8 times 3.3, divide by 2.65 times 6.25, times 17.1 times the result of 1 plus 0.9 times 3.8, multiply by 1.55. Anyone else can do this on their computers at home as well if you want to get an idea as to this. So this comes out to 219,895 and some decimal thereafter. Alright, so this is the damage per second to Corpus, and that's not even taking into account the magnetic damage type. This is just where we're at so far. 219,000 damage to Corpus. Is there anyone disagreeing with that value? I'd assume not, but you know, I'll give you guys a moment. So now let's have a look at something a little bit different. Something like an AoE weapon, perhaps. Let's not use the Riven. That'll be cheating. Let's come along to here. Bring out again Primary Merciless. And let's bring out Galvanized Chamber. Now, this is not the ideal build I would go for. But I think this is a good comparison point. In fact, let's go with the Prime Firestorm as well. Let's really try and match in how it will be used. But this isn't an ideal build. It is, again, going for that magnetic approach against the Corpus. And that Toxin is coming from my Progenitor bonus. Android saying, but Paul, oh, sorry, I'm missing here. Android, you are replying to yourself. I'm going to be missing some of what you're saying. If the overwhelming percentage of players like it, then AoE isn't a problem, but that's not where we're at, no. 40% of people think it is a problem. And that's a lot of people to think something's a problem. 40% of the people who voted here on the stream said it was a problem. So let's do the mathematics with what we've got here now. The stats kind of scroll a bit. Excuse me, I've been very passionately talking. Ah, much better. So let's get the stats out of here. To do this again here. Default Windows background. Yeah, I don't look at the background. I don't care about my desktop. I'm doing other stuff. Cosmo, cheers. Leonie, I'm going to refund you that one because I don't want to switch to music right now, to be honest. I'm going to refund you that one. Alright, let's do the same here. Now, the damage per shot, we're going to ignore the direct damage. Let's just look at the radial. Only the radial. And that radial is 16,399.6. Damage per shot, max. And that's max as in max if a target is right on the center of the range. We're not talking about multiple targets at the moment. We're just looking at one target but taking the full damage, which is a fair starting point for comparison. If you disagree with that, do one, frankly. Multiplying up then, we got the multi-shot. Once again, that is... oh dear. Once again, that is this here. And in fact, we can copy both of these lines over because we got both the multi-shot and the damage bonus. We got Serration, we got Primary Merciless, so we're doing the same thing again. With the fire rate, we're just going to go with... well, we'll go with the 0.667. It is less than 1 per second, so let's go with that. Let's have a look at how that goes. Okay, take care, Zon. And then let's multiply up by the crit stats. Now, I've taken off my Riven, so we've got lower crit stats than we had. Let's bring those out. So, 1 plus 184 multiplied by 4.7. Yep, there we go. You can see I get a lot higher crit multiplier normally, but I've nerfed the build for comparison purposes. Ed, it was 58% that said no, it's not a problem. 42 said yes, it is a problem. Is 16k damage the number, the total damage of the weapon? So the 16k is the radial damage here. That includes the current multi-shot and current damage bonuses, but it doesn't take into account that this scales up and doesn't take into account that this activates. So this is with the 1.8 multi-shot, but not with everything stacked up, which is why we're having to do so many extra calculations. This fixes that to what it actually is on the radial damage. Then we got our fire rate, then we've got our crits. And then we have, once again, the Corpus, or Bane of Corpus, bringing us to there. And so let's do this calculation. Let's see how this comes out to. And again, you can do this on your computers as well if you want to compare your figures with mine. If I do make a mistake, let me know. I am doing this on the fly. There we go. Oops. 1 plus 0.84 times 4.7 times 1.55. Here we go. So the total on this comes out to 362,740. 0.507. Well, actually, Korok got 0.508 I'm getting, but same difference. Same difference. So, Korokop's confirmed the same number for me. We're both getting to this value. This is where we get to here. You have to calculate each damage type by itself? No, you don't. Nope, you absolutely do not have to. Trust me on this. I think of all the people who've demonstrated how to calculate damage in Warframe, I should know this one. I really should. I wrote the video on it. Literally. So between the two here, this one is the DPS that we can get from a weapon which hits one enemy at a time, or can potentially go through a couple enemies with punch through. And this is the DPS at point blank range on one target at a time with the Tenet Envoy. And as I say, that's an imperfect build. It's using magnetic to deal with the Corpus. When we could just go for an innate viral build and Hunter Munitions to throw and slash against the Grenadier, for example. Now tell me, in terms of direct damage to radial damage, does this seem balanced to you? The AoE has about 65% more damage, yeah. And bear in mind, this is single target. We have a 13.28 meter range. I've increased that by replacing one of the damage mods here. One of the damage mods is missing from this build. What mod was it? I think it was it Hammer Shot? I think it was Hammer Shot I took off. In any case, one of the mods is missing to give us this greater range. 13 meter radius! And yeah, as Rainier was pointing out, that's not including the direct damage, but the direct damage is 2,500 to 16,000. Like, that's only hitting one target, and if you directly hit them, we can ignore that one, to be honest. I shoot at the ground a lot, so that one doesn't normally come into play. So this is pretty bonkers. And the thing is that these two figures here, this is the total damage over an entire second of firing. Okay? Guys, can we not argue about the poll and the 60% matter? I feel like you're missing some of the reality of what's happening in front of you right now. So this is 1 second of firing. This is you aim down your sights, you put this onto an enemy, and you open fire. If you kill that enemy during that second, you switch to another enemy and continue firing. And if you land all of that damage, that is your base DPS. I'm saying to Corpus just because of the Bane. That could be any faction if you're using any Bane. Doesn't matter. That's the base DPS. And yet, going for the same damage type approach with the Tenet Envoy, this is the average damage per second. Guys, please drop it on the whole 60%, 40%, your discussion about the poll. It's getting a little bit feisty there, and I don't really like that. It's one of the reasons I actually don't usually cover controversial topics, because chat gets angry about something. I don't want you guys arguing over details about who's saying overwhelming, who's saying 60%. Drop it, roll time you out. So this is the DPS, but we've got a fire rate of 0.667, which means that actually we're doing about 50% more damage than this still per shot. So you can fire off a shot that would deliver, what's that going to be, what, 500,000 damage? Per target, minus the fall-off damage. 500,000 base damage per target. You fire off that, and then you move on. And by the time you've found a new cluster of enemies to fire at, you're ready to fire again. You're just ready. Whereas this, that is a second of continuous firing. You don't get to fire and forget. You don't get to preload your shot. You just shoot. Sashim saying, when you shoot an enemy, you'll do one of the damage type on the weapon without multi-shot or over 100% status? No. No, that's not. No, Satchum, no, that's not what happens. Status doesn't decide how many damage types you're using at once. All of these are hitting simultaneously. That applies to every gun ever. If you have 0% status chance, you will still be hitting with all damage types simultaneously. Status chance will show the chance of you applying a status proc. And then the proc that is applied is weighted off the damage types you have, unless it's a forced proc. All damage types will be applying at all times. Always. Straight up. Is there a way to test my calculation of base damage without it being affected by damage type resistances weaknesses? Kind of, Android. What you have to do is basically set up a weapon that has a certain element, like for example corrosive, and then target an enemy which has no plus or minus to corrosive. That's how you can test it. It's an easy way of testing, and that way you can also test for limb modifiers, modifiers, headshot modifiers, critical headshots, that kind of thing. It is testable, but you need to set it up specifically to avoid the resistances and weaknesses you're talking about. That's how I verified this mathematics thoroughly. Alright, so we got the issue here. Now, this is not an uncommon situation to compare. You might think, well, the Tenet Envoy is just one weapon. You know, is that really representative? Well, actually, a lot of people use the Kuva Brahma over the Tenet Envoy because that one is comparable. A lot of people use the Kuva Tsar. Not everyone is running around with the Tenet Envoy, so yeah, it's actually most of the meta AoE weapons at the moment will do that same kind of thing. How am I planning to stream for? I stream until 10 PM UK time, which is a couple hours away from now. And you might say, well, the Tenora Prime, is that really a fair comparison for a weapon? Is this one really a fair one to bring up? And I'd say it bloody well should be. It bloody well should be, because the Tenora Prime here is Mastery Rank 14, and it came out after the Kuva Brahma. This weapon here is a year younger, if I recall correctly, than the Kuva Brahma. But let me get you the exact times. I'm going to flashbang you with a wiki now. I am going to flashbang you with a wiki because it takes up the whole screen. Bam, there we go. I did warn you. So the Kuva Brahma was released. Here we go. February 4th, 2020. February 4th. Whereas the Tenora Prime, this one came out 23rd of February 2021. So yeah, almost exactly a year later, it is a Mastery Rank 14 primed weapon, the signature weapon of Octavia Prime, compared to the Mastery Rank 15 of the Kuva Brahma, but you can achieve it a lot sooner than Mastery Rank 15. So on that basis alone, a newer weapon, released as a prime, released as a signature, released with Mastery 14, you would imagine it should be a comparable weapon. I know that Mastery Rank doesn't really work that way, but it's to give us an idea as to somewhere along the line, some kind of comparison that should be going on. The Tenora Prime has a very high crit chance, very high magazine, very high effective fire rate, very high max ammo, above average crit multiplier. It doesn't have the highest damage, but it's certainly meant to be a capable weapon. And you'll find that other single target weapons, aside from the recent release of things like the Fenmore, mostly are either comparable to the Tenora Prime or worse. Ignis is the old school AoE. Ignis is a multi-target weapon. I distinguish between AoE and multi-target because basically AoE is the radius. But yeah, Ignis is a multi-target weapon as well, which is why it was so dominating and continues to dominate. I'll get onto the dominating weapon history in just a moment for you guys. But my point here, from that long series of calculations and comparisons and whatnot, we've got these single target weapons which can affect 1, 2, occasionally, and 3 enemies rarely at once, has a lower DPS than a weapon which just chuck a missile somewhere in there, it'll hit them. It's crazy. What about a cooldown effect on AoE weapons like Lavos abilities? Ooh. Hunter! You are relying too much on your Kuva Brahma. Use a different weapon! How many of you want to hear that in your mission? How many of you would like to hear Samaris pop up and say, no, you've been using the Brahma too much, you have to use a different weapon now, switch to your melee! Oh, and believe it or not, Korokop, I went through that in my notes here as well. I literally have that written down about the idea of, oh, what about cooldowns on it? Oh god, how to kill your game in a moment. 4 alerts dropped? Oh, hold up. Alerts? Og? We've got, okay, there's a format, there is a glyph, there is a sigil, as a glyph. Okay, well, there you go, guys. You can do those whilst you're listening to the stream. It's worth a shot, Korokop. Absolutely. Every idea is worth at least considering, even if that consideration comes down to, oh wait, no, shit, that... People already get annoyed at Samaras going, "No, you use that ability too much." How would we measure that one and make it fair and balanced and not just tell people you're having too much fun, stop? That would be a painful one, in my opinion. That would definitely be a painful one, in my opinion. Alright, so. Not all AoE weapons are a problem, correct? Yeah, not all AoE weapons are in fact a problem. It's a lot of the newer ones. It is definitely a lot of the new ones, and that shows that there has been a trend towards creating this. As I said at the start of the stream, and I'll repeat for those of you who have joined us since the start of the stream, the AoE meta that exists today has been designed to exist today. This was inevitable with the way that design decisions were being taken, even if it wasn't intended. Could you give single target weapons a mod for explosive bullets? They can join the fun. Turning everything single target into explosive doesn't fix the meta, it just reinforces it. It says the only way to proceed is for everyone to have the exact same thing. And then the people who wanted targeted weapons go, oh. So I'm not allowed. Oh. Haven't considered the great return of self-damage. That's in my notes here. We mentioned how AoE has none of the drawbacks. But here's an interesting one for you now. Here's an interesting one to smash through another AoE benefit. I don't know how many of you guys have thought about this. We look at here at the Tenora Prime, okay? And you imagine me using it shooting. In fact, I'm streaming the game. What did I just say? Imagine. Pfft. Who needs to imagine? Let's go into a mission. Let's go into a stupidly low-level one for pure demonstration purposes. Okay? You think single target should be buffed? Not an uncommon thought. Buffed how? I'll get on to buffs in just a sec as well. But watch what I do with this weapon here to kill the enemies. Watch what I do here. And tell me if this is unlike your way of playing with a single target weapon. Tell me if this is different to how you play. But I'm going to aim at them and kill them. Like so. Okay? I'm going to... Where are they? I thought he was over there, but it was actually a plant. There he is. I'm aiming at them and killing them. Is this at all unlike how you would play with a single target weapon? Using your minimap to find where the enemies are, shooting them, killing them. And if you think I'm being facetious, I'm making a point here, trust me. Follow this. Screw the damage types, we're in a low-level mission, we don't care about damage types right now. Is this how you'd kill enemies with a single target weapon? You look for them on your minimap, then you look for them visually, you shoot them and off you go. So, now, if we just go back through this section here, let's skip those enemies. Watch my minimap as we go back through. Do you notice something on the minimap that I should be caring about? Certainly if I'm a player that's a bit strapped for resources. No one's aiming at targets, that's one bit as well. But look at the minimap. Look how many resource crates and pickups I've just sped past. All of these, all over the place. I got a Kubra egg. What? Oh. I'll add it to the pile. How many of those have I got even? Just as a funny thought. Kubro, egg. Let's see. Someone needs a Kubro egg. How many do I have? I have 51. Anyway. It's my theory that people who struggle with certain rarer resources, like for example in Triarty Lanthorns, maybe you're just not using AoE weapons. Because if I did the same now, if I continue from here with my AoE weapon, my Spore Lacer, how many more crates am I going to start blowing up? How many more resources am I going to start picking up here? Why am I bullet jumping? I'm Wukong. Resources which other people are struggling to obtain. But because of AoE, I can pick them up. And this is a small AoE. You imagine a 13-meter radius AoE like I have on my Tenet Envoy. Oh, I've already finished the mission. Wow. I actually kind of forgot just how quick level 1s are. That is another benefit of AoE. It was a question that came up. Someone asked me over on YouTube. They were asking about my loadout, what weapons I typically use, when I mentioned that Entrati Lanthorns drop about 1 every 2 missions of Exterminate. They said, I don't get that experience, what weapons do you use? I was like, how could the weapon possibly... And of course. If I'm going through tight corridor missions, blowing them up with a 13-meter radius nuke, of course I'm going to be scooping up nearly every single crate I can get my hands on. Leonie, the same length as normal streams, continue till 10 o'clock UK time. We've still got nearly 2 hours left. So that is another point in favour of AoE weaponry that you probably haven't even noticed. That we actually just kind of blow up so much stuff. I used to do this before AoE Meta got to where it was, both with intentionally farming through the likes of Equinox and Limbo. Equinox is one of my most used frames for a very good reason, she's a very good frame. But also, my favourite buddy of all time, Carrier Prime. Probably Soul Caxus, probably. I mean, the stream definitely, because of replays, but yeah. Carrier destroys loot crates within 12 meters. But it's not quite as rapidly effective. I believe it needs line of sight compared to nukes which just go, okay, everything broke, scoop it. So yeah, that's a lot in favour of it. Alchemicon Silver, cheers. AoE has at this point got all of the benefits and seemingly none of the negatives. High damage, higher damage than the target weapons. We've got high radius, wall penetration, crate busting, and no aiming required. But let's move past that, because you don't have to use AoE. Loads of people here, myself included, do not use AoE all the time. Sometimes you just choose to use a different weapon, sometimes you prefer to use a different weapon. You might use, rather than a spherical nuclear AoE, you'll instead use a cone-shaped or cylinder-shaped AoE, like the Fulmin, like the Nataruk, like the Ignis Wraith. Or you might use an even weaker AoE still, a chained AoE, like for example on the Gaze, on the Amprex, on the Kuvanukor. Or you might use a weaker one again still, in that it's no longer AoE. We now use just a normal firing weapon with punch-through, or maybe no punch-through at all. You can use whatever you want at the end of the day. It's a PvE game, right? Why is anyone possibly complaining about what other people are using? Why would anyone? Oh wait, let me just bring up a Reddit thread real quickly. Let me just grab this here. Sorry, just to say, my Reddit is always a bit slow. Oh, I've missed some messages from fans. Oh dear, I will have to get to that. Alright, here we go. Old Reddit, because old Reddit, best Reddit. Flashbang, by the way. So here I want to show you what has kind of spawned this recently. This was 19 days ago. Over on Reddit, user Endelay decided to make a post. They were talking about basically their throw on how the AoE meta is affecting other stuff, and they made a very good point. As they say here, the Furex having its Riven disposition nerfed is the boom and zoom, or zoom and boom meta metastasizing. Basically, the Furex is not a very good weapon. It's not. I don't use the Furex. I don't like using the Furex. I don't want to use the Furex. But it is a weapon. It's a melee weapon that exists. And what is so amazing about the Furex, if we just minimize past my notes as well, what is so amazing about the Furex, if we go over to our mod section here and search for Furex, it's got this unique mod. The Amalgam Furex Body Count mod. And I've never actually used this one myself, never cared to, but it exists. It gives you 20% blast radius on specialized launchers. Why not just use that? So I've got that for future reference. So you might now beginning to see why a bunch of people are using the Furex all of a sudden, or at least have been increasing their usage over the last few years, because we got more and more specialized launchers which use a blast radius, and so you've got this Amalgam mod. Amalgam mods are meant to be a mix of bonuses. If we back out of that one, if we just search Amalgam, you can see some of the other ones out there. the Amalgam Ripcast True Steel. It's weaker than Sacrificial Steel, if I recall correctly, but it also gives reload speed on shotguns. Amalgam Barrel Diffusion. It's a weaker multi-shot, but gives you also dodge speed. So this one has been seeing increasing use because more kaboom, as Korokop puts it, means more kills. Not just more kills, not just a wider area affected, but because of damage fall off from the peak out to the edges, if you have wider edges, you have a slower fall off. So enemies not dead center will take more damage as well because of this mod. And as a result of that, in their automated system, it has to be at this point, DE managed to nerf the Riven disposition of the Furax. Nerfing the Riven disposition doesn't make this mod any weaker. Anyone who is using the Furax as an AoE meta support weapon didn't get nerfed whatsoever. But everyone who is using the Furax as the Furax, specifically if they'd invested in a Riven for it, found their Riven nerfed, because their less than meta weapon was being used by people to support a different weapon class entirely. So when you think that the AoE meta doesn't actually have to affect you, you can just choose to use other stuff, this is one of the clearest examples I can give you to say, well, actually, yes, it can. This is a very specific example, but this is an example that absolutely has to be acknowledged. The Furax disposition got nerfed because it was being lumped in with the AoE meta. Now, of course, they can just unnerf that, but it is an example of the kind of changes that start to bleed through. Carbon saying, speaking of fall off, couldn't find an answer to this on the wiki. Maybe it should be obvious. Is higher fall off stat in Arsenal good or bad? Bad. Higher percentage is bad. So to answer that for everyone who's curious about fall off, if we go here, you see my fall off is 50% on my Spore Lacer. So at the edge of its range, it's doing 50% damage. This is a bad example because that could go both ways. My bad. Let me get one that's not 50%. Kuva Brahma. There we are. So at the edge of its range, it's doing 10% damage because 90% has been lost. 90% has been lost. So the lower your fall off, the lower your damage is falling off, the better it is. Yeah. A 50% example was the worst example I could have accidentally clicked there. Why didn't they nerf the mod? Because they weren't trying to nerf the AoE meta, Korokop. Instead, it was just the Riven disposition algorithm going, hey, lots of people are using the Furax more than ever before. Maybe they don't need their Rivens to be so good anymore then. Maybe the meta has shifted. And so the algorithm says, hey, nerf the disposition. Yeah. What's the algorithm mod do? Have a look. So, that's one of the examples, but this can go further than that. As I've already mentioned, if you are not using an AoE weapon just as a matter of course as you go through a mission, you will get less loot. Now say for example that DE measures how quickly people get loot, and I would hope that they do, because how can you balance anything without numbers? If they measure how quickly people get loot and they notice, oh yeah, look, the average person is getting loot at this level, well, that's all fine and good, but now they've balanced for this level of loot acquisition, but if your single target weaponry puts it down here, well, actually, you're getting nerfed, because they're balancing based on how much they're expecting. That is speculative. I have no evidence to say that that is exactly what they're doing. However, to think otherwise, especially seeing the Furax have its Riven disposition nerfed, should give you an idea as to how carefully it's being checked. That gives me an impression as to how this can be an issue, and one that we definitely should be talking about. If there's the expectation of AoE, even unintentionally the expectation of AoE, then that leads to the expectation of resource gathering rates, of mission clear times, of what drop rates they should put into the game, as to how threatening groups of enemies should be. If you spawn 20 enemies in a mission every second, and the average person handles that, they go, well, 20 enemies per second is fine, right? Except, hang on, wait, what if it's not fine for everyone? It's just fine for the people using nukes. What do I want to achieve with this discussion? What I want to achieve with this discussion is for people to give me things that I have not thought of yet, basically. And at the same time, to share with you guys my thoughts on the whole situation. I'm going through everything, tearing through my mind about all of this lot, and feed that off you guys and see where things are. Maybe Rim Disposition should be adjusted for stat stick usage. I mean, could be. Adjust it for kills rather than usage. That would make more sense. Although kills from a stat stick still based on the Riven stats, so maybe not as much sense. What weapons are considered specialized launchers? It says so on the wiki, Honshabomb. You'll have to double check on that one. I don't know the full list off the top of my head, sorry. Now, even if you get past all of that lot, okay, we've gone past the crates not being broken, we've gone past the fact that AoE weapons just deal more damage, we've gone past the fact that AoE weapons hit enemies faster, so you can do missions more quickly, and you look at all that and you go, no, I don't worry about that. Okay, let other people use it, I'm fine. Sure. So you want to play the game slower. Because unless you are in a mission which does not require you to kill anything whatsoever, you are doing the mission slower by using non-AoE weaponry. And that means that you are gaining less affinity, because most affinity is got from kills, not from missions. With the exception of a spy mission, all missions give you basically no affinity. It just comes from kills. In most missions, you do not get much in the way of reward for the mission itself. You do not get loads of resources compiling on through for most missions. Instead, you get those resources from breaking crates and from killing enemies, and you break crates more effectively with AoE, and you kill enemies more effectively with AoE. If you are killing fewer enemies per minute, per hour, however you want to measure it, no matter what way you have gone about that, you are reducing the amount of resources, affinity, and overall progression you get in Warframe. That's just a fact. So the AoE meta is shifting the efficiency expectations of the entire player base. Everyone who experiences that kind of stuff, you're expecting to move at a certain pace. You look at how many people complained on the that's it. What frame takes the longest to farm video? Saying, oh, well, this guy's doing a high level. I can't complete missions that quickly. Well, they're right, yeah. And part of that comes down to just having stronger weapons, but into certain categories of weapon just being better than others. For a while, prior to Arsenal Divide, melee was the answer. Guns were just a slower way of doing things. Again, that got addressed. May make some new missions that ask you not to risk killing things too fast. Hey Android, we already have one of those. It's called Try Not to Kill All the Enemies Before We Got Our Reactant in This Defense Mission. Oh god, please. Void Fishers already actually do that, and it can be a fun one, in that it requires people to really think about what they're doing, but mostly it comes down to hold off your attacks, wait for things to get charged, and then blow it up. The design of the mission could focus a little bit more around it, but you're right, that is a way of mitigating it. From in Void Fishers? In some Void Fishers, yeah. Certainly if you've not got 4 people in the squad, because then fewer enemies spawn, and that compounds the issue. You ever tried to do a solo interception relic fisher? There you can get spicy. To the point of being impossible sometimes. But then, let's move past all of that lot. Maybe it is just about balancing things. Maybe we just need to make it where AoE weapons deal less damage. Maybe that's it. I mean, it could be that simple. Ignoring the fact that I said earlier that if anyone thinks it is just one simple answer, maybe it is just that simple. We just need to knock a 0 off the AoE weapons, you know? We calculated earlier I was doing what? Something like 500,000 average damage per shot per target with the Tenet Envoy. Let's make that 50,000. Let's just knock a 0 off it. How bad could that be? Or how good could that be? But then most of you here have watched my enemy level scaling video. If you haven't, check it out. Because that'll help you understand exactly where I'm going with this next bit. Let me just grab the numbers here. Oh, there we are. It's on the next page over. Perfect. Without going to the wiki, without going to the wiki, just follow this here. I want to see you guys guess the numbers. At level 15, a heavy gunner, a normal standard Grineer heavy gunner at level 15 has 3,544 effective hit points. 3,500, okay? So don't go to the wiki. I just want you to guess. If at level 15 it has 3,500 effective hit points, how many do you think it has at level 60? Ignoring damage type modifiers, how much damage does it take to kill a level 60 heavy gunner? It takes 3,544 to kill it at level 15. How much do you think at level 60? 60. We got some joke numbers. We got 1.2 million, 15,000, 300,500, a million or more, hundreds of thousands. Exactly. This tells me one very simple answer, which is the correct answer. You don't know. Because the game doesn't give you that information. It's all over the place. But let me tell you that value. It's 321,000. So Rikaraz, congratulations. That was a very, very good guess. Rikaraz, you are on the money. 321,000. That is nearly 100 times higher than at level 15. When you go from a Void Fisher, a Lith Void Fisher, to a a Requiem Relic Fisher, that's level 15 to level 60, you've increased the effective hit points of a heavy gunner nearly 100 times over to 300 odd thousand. So with that in mind, guys, that's level 60. Okay, what do you now think it is for level 105? Just a normal, non-steel path, normal level 105 heavy gunner. It's 321,000 at level 60. What is it at level 105? And this is basically the top end of the sortie. Estimates of 3 million, 3 million, 2 million. You're not far off. It's 1.7 million. Okay? So it increases again by, what's that? Over 5 times. So we've gone from level 15, your Lith Void Fisher of 3,500 to level 105, your sortie of 1.7 million. And then if you step on over to the Steel Path, everyone who's gone to the Steel Path without watching guides and whatnot before now, if they just went to the Steel Path and went, okay, let's try my damage now, you experience this next bit. Level 105 on the Steel Path jumps from that 1.7 million to over 10 million. My camera will not show you that high up because I can't reach that high up. It increases again by nearly an order of magnitude. Just switching to Steel Path. So, with that in mind, you've got the very start of the Steel Path, level 105. You've just gotten going on the Steel Path. The heavy gunner there is over 10 million effective hit points. Yet all the way down at level 15 in Lith Fisher, it's 3,500. Okay? So bearing those two figures in mind, how much damage should an AoE weapon do? Slashbox still deal with health. The health is still scaled immensely, guys. Not to the same order of magnitude, actually close. It's still scaled massively. I'm running with effective hit points for now. Yes, Slashbox are a thing. That's part of why Slashbox are loved, because they do skip past a lot of that armor scaling. But it still scales incredibly. So how much damage should an AoE weapon do? When on the one hand, you've got a low-level mission at 3,500, you've got another hand, mid-level, well, actually a reasonably high-level mission compared to Star Charts. It's a decent level mission at 300,000, and then you've got the Steel Path starting at over 10 million. By the end of the Star Chart, right up to level 160-ish, you're actually looking at, I think it was around 19 million for a level 160 Steel Path Heavy Gunner. How could you possibly set a number? Because if you set it low enough that damage is no longer overbearing on the Star Chart, then it doesn't work on the Steel Path. And if it is high enough that it is a usable weapon on the Steel Path, then there is nothing you can do to balance targeted weaponry in a normal Star Chart or high-level post-Star Chart mission. Anywhere sortie and below will get deleted by a weapon that can confidently handle the Steel Path. Crevices, welcome to the Twitch channel. If you think there is only one answer which fixes the AoE meta, I'm sorry to say it doesn't quite work that way now. There are some good options that work towards it, but it's not just one answer. So you see that there is no distinction that can be made there. And here's the thing, is that unlike other MMOs, you think of your likes of your World of Warcraft, your RuneScape, any other kind of MMO. Dofus, I think, is another good example, although you've probably never heard of that one. There we are. Shout out to a friend of mine. In a lot of other games like that, higher level characters will go to higher level areas, higher level enemies, higher level missions, and they stay there. If you come to a low level mission or a low level enemy, if you go kill a level 2 goblin when you're a level 138, you get rewards that tell you, why are you here, mate? Yes, congratulations, you one-shot it. Here's your 1 experience point and a couple gold coins. Back off, you're in the wrong spot. But here in Warframe, we're told to go to every single level of mission. Constantly. And you're not going to change your loadout. Warframe gives you absolutely no reason to reduce your loadout down, unless you feel like doing it for the fun of it to slow the mission down. It's kind of all over the place. Good luck saying, how about, as part of the solution, adding a base ricochet chance to all targeted weapons with good mods to increase them. So basically turn targeted weapons into AoE, because you're not allowed to enjoy targeted weapons. AoE is the only answer, correct? If that sounds facetious, it's a little bit. I'll be honest, I'm being a bit facetious there. But yeah, the answer to targeted weapons is not to make them no longer targeted weapons. Syntax saying, I don't think AoE needs to be nerfed, it just needs to scale differently. If you got all the good mods on a max rank, you can make it perform at grotesque levels. If you're just an average player, maybe even starting out, you'll never have an AoE weapon perform at level that makes you even aware of this issue. Doubt. As we already covered moments ago, maybe some moments ago now, my AoE weaponry, in fact, do I have the text file here still, do I? Yep, there we go. Here we are. We did the damage calculation. Tenora Prime modded as strongly as I could, reasonably speaking. It was doing 219,000 damage per second. Lieutenant Envoy, with one less damage mod, just to increase the radius instead, was doing 65% more, I think someone said it is. And that's per target at the center of the blast. And that blast is 13 meters radius. AoE is stonkingly better. Not even a slight bit, it's stonkingly stronger. At the end of the day, Gidlix, you're changing a targeted weapon to be multi-target. You're moving it towards additional effective hits. It's not AoE as in it's not a radius, it's not an area it's affecting, but it is multi-hit, which is one step further up the chain. Single target, multi-hit, zone hitting, area hitting, however you want to define it. It's increasing it. There's got to be alternative solutions to that. But alternative solutions that don't ruin other people's fun. Because as I've said all throughout this here, at the end of the day, you can just not use AoE. There are downsides to it, and those downsides could do with being considered. But as others have brought up so far, as I said, we got a load of different points to get around to. As others have mentioned so far as well, sorry I flashbanged y'all without mentioning it there, whoops, my bad, let me switch screen so I don't accidentally do that again, there we go. As others have mentioned, even if you are happy to use single target weapons and you accept their drawbacks and whatnot, you then go into a group mission. You then go into just a bog standard group mission. Let's bring the Rubico. I'm going to go sniping. Yeah. This will be great. Let's go snipe some enemies. I'm sure absolutely nothing will go wrong here. Let's see. We got some Steel Path incursions going on. Let's have a good look here. Let's do... No. Let's go to a Void Fisher. Let's go to that one. Exterminate Void Fisher. Perfect. Yeah. Let's go join some people. I'm going to take my single target weapon because I enjoy using a single target weapon. It's going to find me a squad. It's going to find me a squad. I'm not doing this solo. That completely ruins the point. You moron game. Give me some players. Is there a better Axie Relic that people are doing at the moment? No, there we are. Okay, that was weird. What's this person bringing? We've got the Kuva Brahma. Kuva Brahma. Tenet Tetra. Alright, guys. Let's go. So I can just go into a mission like this one here. I'm just going to go with my single target weapon. It's going to be absolutely fine. 2 or 4 without AoE. 3 if you count the fact Tenet Tetra is a secondary fire on it, doesn't it? Is it Tenet Tetra that has the grenade throw on it as well? It's not as good as most other AoEs, but it is one. No Firefly Titania? Oh, I suppose. Not everyone's following that meta. Alright, I'm going to do my best. I want to get kills here. Haha, I am first on the scene. They haven't loaded in yet. He hasn't even fired his Brahma yet. What is he? Where is he going? There he is. Now he's fired his Brahma. Nope, I think my Sentinel got that one from me. Alright, they've started playing the game now, so it's going to get harder. Where is that guy? Oh, no, my Sentinel got that one. I tried shooting a player. You already see the points I'm making? Oh, yeah. I'm also demonstrating because, I want to play some Warframe on stream as well. I can't just talk for the entire stream and not have at least one Void Fissure or something. Check if they're leveling the Tetra. They are. Yeah, both their Tetra and Detron were level 0. Oh, no, I was rolling so I couldn't get the shot off. We got to go back this way. Even the Sentinel's beating it? Yeah, because my Sentinel is an aimbot and this is a low-level mission and my Sentinel is a god. So if my Sentinel's not reloading, it will often beat me to the punch. Nope, I can target. They're all dead. Oop, nope, damn it. Don't worry, I'll find some to shoot in a moment. I missed. I was off by like a meter and so he didn't die. Man, AoE weapons don't have to deal with that. Alright, there's apparently some enemies that way. If I go ahead of them, then I can get some... Oh, he got ahead of me. Okay, well, I'm just going to have to move up a bit more. There we go. Now I can get some kills because I'm ahead of everyone else. Haha! Ah, I'm losing it. And everything's blown up. Aha! These ones spawn... Oh. Right, well. So if you don't actively get ahead of them, they are just going to kill everyone before I can. I think I'm giving the point across. Now, I think I'm actually doing alright on the kills, aren't I? 41, I'm second place. I wonder how many of those are my Sentinels, to be honest. But you get the point. Take out my Sentinel, take out the stupid waypoints. Take out my Sentinel. Take out people waiting to use their Brahma at the start. It's very weird. Oh, he just deleted the room. And here we are. Mission objective complete. And I have 49 to 79, 39, 14. Not bad going. My Sentinel was definitely doing a lot there. How many headshot kills? Only 9. Oh yeah, the Rubico absolutely rocks in Eidolon hunts. Most of the weapons don't. There aren't really that many weapons you can use in Eidolon hunts, but that's its own thing. Oh, we killed something. Oh no. AoE would have got him first shot. So this, I think, makes a pretty clear point in that you can join into a group mission. You can get yourself a Harrow Prime Near Optics. There we go. And who says farming Harrow's hard? He's not really going to take the former, is he? Surely not. Oh, okay. Enjoy your former piece. Cramped tile sets, it gets even worse. It does. And that was one of the aspects. Another one of the aspects is if you've got teammates just dropping AoEs all over the place, it actually gets kind of hard to see. It actually can get quite hard to see. I mean, I didn't have Warframe info active either, Archer, to be honest, but there we are. You even looking for a Harrow Optics? Hey, Raptor, you on PC? If you're on PC, Raptor, send me a message. So yeah, let's switch these screens around again. There we go. If you go into a group mission, AoE will typically dominate the kills. Ah, it's unfortunate, Raptor. AoE will dominate those kills, and even if it's not successfully fully dominating that, you will also then struggle when it comes down to actually be able to see what's going on, because if you have, for example, the Kuva Ogris being used around you, you better turn your effect intensity down, because they're not going to give you a nice, easy to see through black energy color. It could be a nightmare to see through all of that. I have Screen Shake turned off for a very good reason. I usually play with effects intensity down. I have it up whenever I'm recording, and I have it up when I'm doing Void Flood, because it is necessary, but usually I'll have it turned down to make it easier to see. Happy John Doe. It'll be just the corrosive part that deals 75% more damage, but don't forget, it also skips 75% of the enemy armor for that corrosive section of your damage too. So the rest of the weapon won't have the damage bonus, but your corrosive will have a damage bonus and skipping armor, increasing the damage you do even further. If you're on Steel Path, for example, I know you're not going to be on Steel Path if you're a newbie, but once you get to Steel Path, corrosive will deal around about 6 times more damage than a normal damage type at that tier, because of the bonus against Ferrite. You have my VIP system? Oh, that's great. The VIP cost has gone up significantly since it was first introduced, and we're keeping it that way. Yeah. Snipers should be good in assassination missions or hunts. Yeah. Yeah, they should be good at long range, taking at high value targets. Snipers should absolutely be the answer to Xmas units. If you have a high threat unit, then the single target take your head off weapon, the sniper rifles, should absolutely be the answer to them. So it comes down to then, how do we address this? I've spent the last 1.5 hours talking about how basically the entirety of Warframe has been designed towards AoE dominance. If you want to complete missions quicker, or if you want to complete them more smoothly, have lower risk of the objective being failed, then you just... It's 165. Then you just use AoE. You kill enemies faster, it works out better. The damage scaling in Warframe, thanks to your mods, and the enemy level scaling, thanks to, well, just level scaling, means that you can't just take a 0 off of AoE weapon damage. At the very, very high levels, it needs to have that damage to be an option. If you don't have that damage, then it's just trash, you'll be put in the bin. But then you come to lower level missions, and not that much lower level, and because of level scaling, well, it turns out that you can just annihilate everything anyway with that same AoE weapon. Yeah, there is the opportunity cost perm. It'll be nice, well, there's not, it's a case of it has to be nice. There are options which are single target focused weapons like Lex Prime, like the Epitaph on its charge shot specifically, but dealing with high value targets as well, yeah. Zeratito, cheers. So, there are different ways of going about stuff. If you increase single target weapon damage, first of all, that would be a good idea generally, because it'll be nice to have the damage to actually compete on the Steel Path. But more generally, it won't help in lower level missions, because a one-shot is a one-shot is a one-shot. You can't get better than a one-shot. So that doesn't help out the majority of missions, just the very top end. We could look at maybe reducing the area of effect on AoE weapons, but that also makes them less AoE. Like, the smaller they get, the less they are what they intend to be, and the more they become actually just targeted weapons by a different name. You can use certain grouping abilities to enhance their results, and maybe that's the way AoE should work, that you have to focus on grouping enemies. And honestly, if Prime Firestorm and Primed Fulmination were just deleted from the game, they're just gone, we got refunded the Endome, we got refunded the ducats, cool. Yeah, I'd be fine. I don't believe in half shot? Well, not in this context, no. Half shot does apply to certain cases, but it doesn't apply to Warframe. It's a funky one. We could reduce the AoE. We could make it where every launcher type weapon or every AoE type weapon had serious ammo limitations. Say, for example, let's go back to the arsenal and be like, okay, well, they nerfed the Brammer down at one point, but then it got more arrows thanks to, what do you call it? Primary Merciless. So Prime Merciless here, plus 100% ammo maximum. We now have 10 arrows rather than 5 available to us. What if this wasn't possible? What if Sniper Ammo Mutation and any of the Ammo Mutation mods, what if you just couldn't put them onto things like the Brammer, like the Tenet Envoy? Would that help? Did I talk about enemies taking exponentially reduced damage from AoE, maybe like Fall Off Squared? I mean, it's just another modifier for Fall Off, really, and another modifier for range. You're effectively doing the same thing there, Perm. What about enemies that reduce or downright deny AoE weapon damage, but take extra damage from single target weapons? So that one could be a way, but as we mentioned earlier, say if I am focusing on using the Tenora Prime here, so I constantly use this weapon for the majority of stuff, I'll be charging up Primary Merciless, I'll be charging up Galvanized Chamber. If I then needed to switch to another weapon, well, this isn't charged, this isn't charged. So I don't actually have those benefits. So those builds would be significantly weaker. Or vice versa, if I was always using this one, this would be significantly weaker. So that's another part of Warframe's design that makes it harder to use those. Zuck saying, something just hit me. Trying Steel Path Survival versus Infested using no AoE weapons is really hard, if not impossible. In order to make you probably need to use melee, which may bring melee meta back. So in short, trade one problem for another. And that does come down to the fact that ultimately players will optimize the fun out of anything. We're looking for the optimal way to do things. It's a grind game. Warframe is a grind game. Like, it doesn't matter how much you enjoy the missions, at the end of the day, you will get into a grind set. You will. I really like doing spy missions. I really like doing disruption missions. Even then, there's only so much of those I can take. And partly, I can also only get so many rewards from doing those. And Line of Command wants to be timed out, so goodbye. We'll see you in a bit, mate. Oh, Beard's done it for me. Thanks, Beard. Job done. So it gets into a grind, and if you are grinding for resources, you're grinding for affinity, you're grinding for focus, you're grinding to get relics, you're completing missions as quickly as possible, ultimately, you want to do it as fast as possible. And the fastest way to do it is to use the AoE weapons. But has it always been this way? Let's talk about the past. Let's talk about the past and how things were before. Because the Kuva Tsar didn't always exist, and prior to that we had the Kuva Brammer, and the Kuva Brammer didn't always exist, and prior to that we had the Fullman and the Catch Moon. And at that same time we also had the likes of the dominance of seeing Sarins and Equinoxes and Maces everywhere. And we had the melee meta, how melee was just the answer to everything, and the Cronin Prime is one of the most used melees in the game, because it has that seriously powerful AoE attack. And how we have the Glaive Prime with its seriously powerful AoE attack, and how we have the Stropher, which has exceedingly high usage for a melee weapon, because it has a ranged full body punch through attack with a lot of damage. Effectively an AoE in the same style as the Fullman. Always, the meta has been about what kills fastest. Just kills, 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 kills is the focus. Warframe is designed that way. It's a looter shooter, of course you want kills. You want to shoot, and then you want to loot. So of course, kills is the way forwards to make the grind shorter. Welcome to a grind game. It's about making the grind shorter. But it is reaching a level where that grind is being made so efficient with ever more capable weapons of doing it that it becomes the only way of doing it. At any reasonable rate, at a rate that everyone considers okay. Higher rewards for higher investment in mission? There are many different ways of going about it. There are many, 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 many different ways of going about this. So we could, and by we I mean DE could try to bring weaponry more into line with each other again. They could, for example, go to the Tenet Envoy here. They could delete this mod to bring the range down. They could bring the range down innately itself as well. Get that even smaller. They could bring down the radial damage significantly. Make it, in fact, they could trade it. Put this radial damage into the direct damage. Swap them around, for example. For the target you hit directly, you get the same damage as before, but for the AoE, it's massively reduced. But that would annoy a lot of people who enjoy using AoE. It's catch-22. A lot of people, like myself, have invested in this. We got ourselves ribbons, we got ourselves primed mods, we got ourselves 5 Former fully equipped, we've opened up the Exla slot, we've got the Arcane added in to make these AoE weapons work. So how do you do that? Perhaps we could make it where missions don't need as much AoE. Now, if you go into a really low-level solo mission, if we go into the likes of just popping back down into, say, Mariana here. That's a nice opinion, Shogun. It's not shared by others, so that's why we're having the discussion. We pop into here. This is a really low-level mission, and it's a solo mission. That guy, if I hit him with AoE, doesn't hit the others. Oh, my Sentinel is killing them really quickly. Carrier Prime for the win. But here, yeah, we've got individual enemies spawning. One at a time. We had a group of 3 together as well at the start, but mostly they're individuals. And so my AoE weapon is not doing as much there, or is not that much stronger compared to the single target. And then we get a group of them, and then I can blap. So you imagine that same scene again, without my carrier being an absolute dick, just showing off. No, you're fine, carrier. You're doing exactly what I told you to. I'm the idiot. If we had line of sight required for the AoE, if we reduced its range and reduced its damage, then here a single target weapon would be just as good, if not potentially better. AoE retains the ability to hit multiple enemies at once to clear out the fodder, but it could be made that you then want to switch to a single target weapon, which this one isn't, but there we are, it's the other one I'd equipped. You'd want to switch to a single target weapon for your high priority targets, perhaps. We could perhaps make it where ammo can't be converted for AoE weapons. We could make it that way, then you have to only use the AoEs for the groups, because otherwise you'll run out of ammo. We could think about things that way. If there are fewer enemies in a mission, you can be more stealthy. I'm not using a stealth frame right now, not counting his second ability. So if there are fewer enemies up ahead here, I could slip in for some extra assassinations if I don't get noticed. I did get noticed though, so that kind of ruined that. And I'm making noise, that's not helping either. Biggie boot! Ow. Because if you have fewer enemies in a mission, you can be more stealthy. You have less reliance on AoE. You can target those enemies without a million more firing at you. In fact, AoE is almost necessary for survival at higher levels because, well, what's one of the best ways to not die in a high level mission? One of the best ways to not die in a high level mission is to keep moving. Be bullet jumping, be dancing around your enemies, be rolling, be active. Best way to not die in a high level mission, which this one most certainly is not, but you know, conversations move, is to keep moving. But if you are constantly moving, you're going to struggle to apply aimed weapons to enemies. You're going to really struggle. Whereas if you use an AoE weapon, point it in the general direction of the enemies plural that you are trying to deal with, and job done. But yeah, AoE has had all of its drawbacks removed. Ammo issues, gone. Self-damage, gone. Self-stagger, we basically have just modded out of the game. The damage is higher than many single-target weapons, most single-target weapons. The ability to shoot through walls is something that is mostly just for AoE weaponry. That Envoy is blasting through walls, and yet if I brought my Rubico, or my Tenora, even with all the punch through in the world, I'd need to know exactly where the enemy was to land that punch through. Normally I wouldn't be able to do it. AoE immune enemies? AoE immune could work. But for that as well, I think these mods are actually a bit of a problem. I've loved the galvanized mods and the arcanes, but I'm actually beginning to think they might be a problem because they lock you into using that weapon. If you switch weapon, you let the other one get weaker. You lose your buffs. Switching weapon actively makes you weaker. What if we didn't have timers on them? You know, what if they just stayed? You got the buffs. Oh, you just equip the mod. Yep, this one just gives you 330% multi-shot. Oh, sorry, no, 230% it adds up to. Imagine if it did that. Did you miss the AoE Meta talk? We're going through it, Nash. I mean, you missed a lot of it. You missed 2 hours of it, but, you know, we're still going through it. Do we need more things like Primary Blade Charger? Not like that, I'd say, because we got that in Primary Dexterity, technically. But that's the other way around. That's Primary Charger rather than Blade Charger. You know what I mean. Maybe the timer only ticks down when the weapon is equipped. That would be great. Actually, that is a great idea. Android, Soul Cactus, you both said the same thing. That would be a great one. If the timer paused when you were using another weapon, that would be wonderful. Nash, if we'd spent the last 2 hours on the topic and you're saying, what's the gist? Are you kidding me? Bruh. If I could say it in less than 2 hours, I think I would have. Come on. Oh, that's insulting. So, let me just make sure I don't flashbang you guys. Nope, I won't. Good. I can switch this screen again. So we could make it where AoEs were less effective in various ways, and we could make it where switching to alternative weapons was less punishing, so that you're incentivized to use a single target weapon as well as your AoE. Will there be a video on the main channel of the gist of this? I do intend to put a video out on this, yeah. Like, there is a lot to talk about. It won't be like one of my guide videos. It will be a more drawn out video, but yeah, I'm probably going to put a video on the channel for this. Because I wouldn't want to see missions with AoE strictly discouraged. More just AoE doesn't have as many benefits. For example, self-damage. Does anyone remember the kind of gist as to why self-damage was removed? Anyone remember why self-damage was removed? Basically, the Kuvabrammer came out, big ol' AoE massive damage weapon, and everyone was killing themselves. Even prior to the release of that one of my favourite secondary weapons, the Icarius, if I would fire this while standing, it was perfectly fine. It has an arming distance. You can see rockets arm after reaching a safe distance. But if I was sprinting forwards and fired it at a close enemy, I would run into the blast radius. I'd kill myself. So I had to be careful with the Icarius to make sure to only fire it at a distance, or just not going forwards. But with the Kuvabrammer, because of the huge radius on it, basically people couldn't use it without standing really far back from what they were firing at. They would just kill themselves with most weapons. But actually, I think there is a very simple solution. A ridiculously simple solution which allows us to have self-damage brought back into the game as a cost to using AoE weapons close to yourself. Bear with me here. I think you could introduce self-damage in the game for all AoE weaponry by simply making it where it hits you with the unmodded values. You look at the Kuvabrammer right here. It deals on its AoE 839 damage. If you crit, it would deal, what's that? About 1,650? So 800 or 1,600 damage on the AoE. They just start running rolling guard to negate it. for 3 out of every 10 seconds. Or if you're talking about something else, I'm not sure what I'm following there, but yeah. So imagine that, if you could hit yourself with not only the unmodded damage, it'll be a 2-shot with shield gating, your Warframe should be able to take a little bit more than that. Your Warframe, most Warframes can take quite a bit more than that, if you mod for it. You look at, for example, my Lavos here. Lavos is an extreme example. I've got him modded for quite a bit of survivability. Even without adaptation set and going, I have 2,140 health and an 83.7% damage reduction. So 1,600 damage from the Kuva Brahma critting on me. Multiply that by 1 minus 837. That would deal 260 damage. Now once, that would just be a warning to me. Multiple times over, it would be a risk. You mean squishy frames? Yeah, absolutely. Squishy frames would have to be much more careful. If we bring out the likes of, say, Banshee. Hello, Banshee. How much health have you got? 300. Haha! Banshee, you're going to die. Don't commit suicide. That would be bad. You heard it here first, folks. Suicide be bad. So, if we want to use an AoE weapon and be more careless with her, we'd want to bring in some extra defenses. And you can do that. You can absolutely do that. Now, that's not going to give her a lot. This is a basic Banshee. She is perhaps the weakest frame I could have grabbed here. But you see, that would give her the ability to survive a direct blast so long as it didn't crit. She'd be gambling on that. If she wanted to constantly be firing point blank at herself, she'd need that. If you're firing a few meters away where the damage fall off starts kicking in, it becomes more and more manageable. From Novacell, question, will your version of self-damage work with Spectres, Uncle Crew, or Wukong's clone? That's a good question. I suppose it could be implemented that way, where your summons could damage you if you're not careful. It would give a reason to mod for health. It would give a consideration, because currently AoE weapons have no collateral. Now, we don't want to allow you to shoot your allies or shoot consoles and end objectives. That's called griefing. Let's not have griefing. That would be bad. Isn't that what Cautious Shot was for? It was, but then it became not really a problem. And even Cautious Shot, I think, if they were to go down the self-damage route again, Cautious Shot should be removed. I'm pitching it as one of the many bajillion ideas out there, Shatchdom. If you hear one idea and believe that is exactly what I'm professing and the only thing I'm professing, then you've not been listening to me. Again, if anyone thinks that any one idea is the perfect and only solution, you're either naive or a moron, and you get to choose which one, because I don't care either way. I would say if they were to do a return of that... Where's my Cautious Shot? Oh, is that on bows only? I forgot. Or something else. I don't know. If they were to do a return of self-damage, I think Cautious Shot should go. How about just a flat % damage for self-damage? Why a flat %? Why a flat %? Because a flat % means that the more tank you have, the more you're penalised for having tank. That doesn't sound like a good idea to me. A tanky frame is supposed to be a tanky frame. You are choosing to have a tanky frame rather than a frame with more offensive capabilities. That's one thing that I've encountered a lot in, for example, game balancing in Dungeons & Dragons, which is where a lot of my experience in game balancing comes from, working through a lot of bits and pieces in a homebrew sense there. And in DMing for groups, a big part of any design there is don't shut down what someone is trying to be good at. Instead, give them a new challenge to overcome. If someone is already tanky, if someone is speccing into tank, you don't then just say, well, you lose more health as a result. If someone is speccing into perception, you don't say, well, the enemy suddenly got better at hiding. That's just telling them, no, sorry, you invested in your character, but I'm going to just ignore that now. An alternative way of doing it is to allow self-stagger to still be the way, but we remove the ability to remove self-stagger. So, say for example, you equip Prime Sure-Footed. Sure, an enemy can no longer knock you down. You can't be dragged around. Well, they've removed half of that. You can't be knocked down. All of that lot sorted. But you can still knock yourself down with your own Kuva Brammer. Maybe that could be a way of doing it. At that point then, Prime Sure-Footed, for starters, no longer becomes anywhere near as necessary a mod. It stops being such a big deal for the top end stuff because it no longer helps you with your own weapons. It's an option to deal with enemies. You activate status immunity like on Rhino, like on Nezha, like on Revenant. You don't just turn off the knockback from your own weapons. Just your own, not the enemies. Not anything else going on, all the other status effects are fine, but just your own still gets through as a balancing mechanism. That's another way it could be done. There are various different ways of going about giving them drawbacks to work around rather than just making AoE worse. But AoE does also need to be brought down with a lot of these weapons. I remember when starting out how Equinox and Mesa and Sarin were so dominating, but they were so dominating because they were the best options. We don't see that now because they've introduced yet better options, crazily enough. And those options are so strong that if you're in group play, unless you are really good and focused, they're just going to walk over you and blind you in the process. A newer player watching a high-level player storm through a mission gets all starry-eyed and goes, oh, I want to be able to do that. Oh my god. I know, I was that person myself. I saw someone dominating a mission with Equinox. I didn't know what was going on at first. Enemies were just falling apart around me. And I could see these ribbons going around. And I don't normally see those ribbons. This has to be some ability. And I saw they were centered on that Warframe. Like, I want Equinox Prime. How do I get her? And she was my first Prime that I farmed. Newer players do absolutely get starry-eyed over that stuff. But then when you are higher level, you've got to the point where you have access to that gear, or maybe you're still on your way, but you're quite well up. You want to do the mission yourself. You want to play Warframe. Believe it or not, some people actually want to play Warframe. I know, surprise. And you go into a mission and someone else just plays it for you. Sometimes it's nice to have a carry. Not all the time. Not all the time. When someone goes through with Mirage Bram or Wukong, Zarb, whatever other combination, they detonate the map and you're just left going, I wanted to use it in Aura, but I suppose that's not allowed, is it? Then we have an issue. Damage scaling doesn't fix it. Starry Eyes, look at motivation, only if it motivates you for exactly that one thing. Only if you want to move over to it. Only if you are lower level and want to move up to it, Shashtem. If you are high level, you have access to that stuff, but you want to try playing the game a different way, the game says, nah. Nah, don't. Why are you doing that? Why are you trying to use these tools we are giving you? Why are you trying to use an MR14 prime weapon, a signature weapon of Octavia, when you could be using the MR15 technically, but actually earlier accessible nuke called the Kuva Brammer, released a year earlier? Seriously, in case anyone missed that earlier, Tenora Prime here. Tenora Prime was released a year after the Kuva Brammer. Is mastery rank 14, and you are locked to that. You can't skip that like you can with the Kuva Brammer, and yet it is substantially worse despite being single target. Why is it certain Kuva weapons even have mastery? Wibbly wobbly timey wimey. That's why. Anyone talk about removing slash proc ignoring armor? Oh, that's a whole different kettle of fish. Damn it, types. That's an entirely another conversation, but you're right, that is a conversation that just kind of needs to be considered at some point. Yeah. How do I feel about a minimum arming radius for the explosion instead of self-damage, self-stagger? I mean, it kind of works, kind of doesn't. Because I know for Icarus, when that first came out, self-damage was still a thing. It worked in that if it was too close, I got no explosion. If I let the missile travel far enough, it would explode, and if I had also travelled, I would explode myself. which taught me to be more careful with my shots. Fun fact, it balanced it. I still used it a lot though. See me so powerful makes you want to be powerful? Chatstone, that's because you're lower level than me. You are less equipped than I am. But I can guarantee for the vast majority of people, once you've got to the level of equipment I am at, the last thing you want to be told is, right, cool, now you've farmed up all of this equipment, you can only use a subset of it, or you can go solo. Those are your options. Otherwise, other people will play the game for you. That sucks. That absolutely ends up sucking. You end up running behind people going, well, you know, just Wukong number 2749 Alpha, yeah, they did it for me. I contributed. Yeah. Some people like being carried. Everyone might like it at some point. It's not a universal thing all the time, though. Sometimes you actually want to partake in it. And a lot of missions you are required to do it with other people. Otherwise, you just get worse. Oh, well, fair enough, Shashton. Say two different things. That's cool. Oh, you know, I'm apparently nowhere near his level, guys. Oh, dear. Big man coming through. Oh, well, that's a shame. Now, have I missed any bits off of this here? Because I've gone through a heck of a lot. And as I say, I've got 13 pages of stuff that I've written over the last day and a half. Trying to get my thoughts together for all of this lot. The comparisons, the effective hit point comparisons, the calling out the fact that a level 15 heavy gunner is 3,500 hit points, yet by Steel Path they have over 10 million. 3,500 to 10 million, you know. Maybe make it so AoE weapons can't be used mid-air? No, I don't think I agree with that one, Murder. I don't think I agree with that one because that's removing a concept entirely. How do chaining beams like the nuke work out in the current day and age? The nuke is still one of the strongest secondary weapons in the game. And that in part comes down to the fact that there's an absolute obscene critical multiplier. We can just slap on extra crit chance despite this stat here. The chain goes from dead bodies to living bodies without losing much in the way of damage. And it's also an absolute status monster. So the Kuva is actually still very good, but yeah, the chaining aspect helps with it, and that's why it got reduced down from 4 chains to 2. To significantly reduce its overall usefulness. Yeah, the Kuva and the Amprex, you point them at a dead body, they'll chain to living targets nearby. As if you just shot a living target. Part of why it's so good, because you can just keep firing at the guy as he's falling over dead, and it keeps on spreading to others. Have I taken a concept like arming distance into consideration? I just talked about that, what, 3 minutes ago? It's an option. Absolutely, it's an option. With some positives, some negatives to it. A lot of positives overall. But it also still... That just stops stuff from being quite so oppressive point blank. It still doesn't deal with the fact that you can just launch a shot into a room and annihilate everything. That's okay, Gidalix. That's okay. Yeah, Carmen, yeah. I've had that experience a lot. Carmen saying I was stoked to use Kuva as a status primer for my melees, but when I do, there's never anything left to melee. You're very right there. I've been through that a lot. The number of times I've tried applying a status primer, trying to get enough status ticks onto them, the different times I want, and they just... Shit. I did it again, didn't I? I just want to kill them all. So... There is a lot of moving parts. You've got no collateral currently to worry about on AoE weaponry. You can't hurt yourself, you can't hurt your allies, you can't hurt your objective. The most you can do is stagger yourself, but there are mods and abilities which just poof that away. At the very least, making it where we couldn't just poof away the self-stagger would be an interesting nerf. To make it where Prime Sure-Footed and Titania's Spellbind, those kind of things, don't prevent you from staggering yourself. They just prevent everything else still. Removing the line of sight on AoE weapons or rather the lack of line of sight, so they can no longer blow up stuff through walls and floors. You have to actually catch things in the explosion. That would be good. To reconsider the existence of this mod right here and its secondary counterpart, which substantially increases the radius of these weapons. And for those of you who struggle with geometric math, let me just point out how much of a change this is. We take that off there, you can see the difference here. Anyone remember the equation for the volume of a sphere? No? I mean, there's some of you hearing this on a delay, but yeah, if I recall correctly, isn't it 4/3 pi r cubed? I think, yeah, it's 4/3 pi r cubed, isn't it? Hey! There we are. Sphere, Gorilla, we've got sphere. But your heart's in the right place. So if we do 4/3, so 4 divided by 3, multiplied by pi, and then multiplied by r cubed, r here is 8 at the base, we get a sphere of 2,144 units. We don't care about the units, it's units. 2,000 odd. We apply this mod, getting that 13.28, and that goes up to 9,810. So this mod is increasing the volume of the area I am affecting over 4 times over. In fact, it's about 4.5, nearly 5 times over. This one mod increasing the sphere, the area, or volume I should say, the volume that is under threat from this weapon, between 4 and 5 times over. That's enormous! That's absolutely enormous! The change that that one mod is making to the radius, and therefore to the volume. Yeah, it's absolutely giant. Even if you're in a flat tile and you're using pi r squared instead, which is the area of a circle, of course. If we're just using pi r squared, well, 8 squared multiplied by pi is 201, whereas 13.28 squared multiplied by pi is 554. So even the area increases 2.5 times over. So this mod will affect 2.5 times as much area on a flat mission, and in a mission with multiple levels where the whole sphere is taken into account, it increases it to nearly 5 times as much. Not to mention that also it's increasing the distance this fall off is reaching too. So enemies anywhere within the original zone are taking more damage now than they did before. Yeah, Android. Self-damage is more painful than self-stagger. And self-damage would stop you one-shotting a room if you risk throwing yourself into it. You have to be more careful with the shots, is the balancing aspect there. It would move AoE towards frames which are tankier or more careful about their shots would be the consideration. Oh yeah, Korokop. I'm bringing no direct solutions because I'm not a developer for Warframe. What I'm bringing is a broader understanding of the picture of the AoE meta to everyone. By the way, enjoy the build. It's a great build. It works well. The only nerf that's acceptable is when you equip AoE weapons, your Warframe becomes irregular. Yikes! Ooh! You were trying to pick like 5 different fights at once there, mate. Oh! Let's maybe not do that one, shall we? Hooligan? There are different people with different ideas and different feels on that one. There are different ways of handling it. In fact, the two can go hand in hand. Both arming distance and self-damage, self-stagger. The two go hand in hand. Because one of them says, well, your explosion's just not going to work anyway if you do it too close. And the other one says, well, if you do it, but you're also moving into it, you screw yourself over. What do I think of mods like Fulmination scaling with player amounts? Nah. No. Off the top of my head, the idea that your loadout changes so drastically based on the number of people around. Ooh. Not an idea, in my opinion. Stagger wasn't removed because of Chroma on Eidolons? No. Self-damage, you mean, and also still no. No, it's removed because of the Kuva Brammer being introduced and then everyone killing themselves trying to use it because no one was trying to care about the arming distance. This was also, if I recall, pre-shield gating, so you could just off yourself. All this in-depth discussion, what if DE meant just nerfing some range and damage stats? Well, that's a good point, Ed. That's a good point. Everyone, get ready. Flashbang incoming. Let me just switch our screen over here. Let me grab that one. Alright, flashbang in 3, 2, 1, bam. So, this is where the recent AoE meta discussion has exploded from. DE actually stepped out of their offices, stepped out of all the Tenacon prep. Out came D. Marcus, community manager, to say 1.5 lines on Reddit. So, Bright, y'all are weak. Y'all are weak. If this is killing you, you're weak. Get some sunglasses indoors. Where's my dark reader? I got eyes. They're designed for the light. Anyway, enough mocking the people who can only handle dark mode everything. Tenacon is a day away, but once the dust settles, we're going to compile and review all threads and comments on the AoE meta to plan for ways to address concerns. That's all they said. That's it. There's the entire comment. I've heard people... Not heard. I've had people in this chat, both today and other days, saying, what's your thoughts on DE nerfing AoE? I'm like, do you see the word nerf anywhere in here? Do you see anywhere the word nerf or remove or anything else like that? This is the comment. This is the entirety of it. And it says, once we're done with everything else, we're going to, let's translate, to compile and review all threads comments on the AoE meta. So we're going to look for your posts or receive some posts to plan, not actually doing anything at that point, to plan a way to address, so we're looking at ways we can talk about concerns. Not solutions necessarily, not actual changes, no guarantees of changes even. Just, we're going to look at ways we can talk about it. That's what this says. We're going to read what you've said and talk about it. Oh, Captain Lone Song, that is terrible. That is a terrible joke. No, bruh. No. Leonie, sorry, again, I'm going to send you those points back. I'm just not changing around the music today. I'll send you those points back, Leonie. Another time. You don't get the big deal about AoE weapons. Hunter munitions is real issue, isn't it? You know what? That's an interesting claim. That's an interesting claim. Let's take that. Let's take that claim and run with it. Let's get rid of this. Let's switch this out for split chamber. This is still set to the magnetic build, isn't it? Yep, there we go. That's good to go. Let's bring out Lavos, because he's tanky. And let's de-equip Verglass. Just so that's not blowing up anything. Alright. So this is not a slash build. This is a magnetic build, and I'm not even using the primary arcane. I'm not using galvanized mods. Let's use this. Let's see what happens here. I've skipped hunt munitions. I'm using magnetic. And we'll just kill things. I could be aiming, or I could just be walking through. You know, the very things we've been doing so far. Shield gating means that they survive the first shot. And then the entire room dies on the second one. Or at least everything that is within that radius. And look how much health they lose even, with that shield gating. And you know this is Steel Path because they survived the first shot. I could barely see them. I was firing by minimap mostly there. All the aiming I did was to make sure I hit the back wall rather than the little bit of stuff in the way. I have toxin on it? Yeah, the toxin is not the thing killing here. That little bit of toxin is not the thing killing here. Because that toxin is on the direct damage. Wait, no, there's a little bit on the AoE as well, isn't there? Yeah. There's a little tiny bit on the AoE. But basically it's the direct damage. The total damage which is doing the killing. If you think it is the toxin that is killing, where are their shields going when I fire the first shot? And this is the one guy that actually makes this problematic. But he makes it problematic for every kind of weapon. This is where not having all of those extra mods actually kind of sucks. That applies to every weapon. I'm just going to get rid of them with melee as soon as I can. Where's your overshield now, whatever it is? There we go. Alright. Back to killing. No, there was still damage going through this shield gate. You're right, Toxin is doing some of the health damage, but it's not all of it. You don't hit that hard, and it only be that. You can see the yellow numbers popping up. Yeah, the Guardian Xmas is definitely a weakness to not having brought all of the Steel Path upgrades. Alright, I think we're getting a good idea here. I'm not going to spend the entire time going through this mission. You've seen how it's going, okay? So now, I'm going to switch over. Another claim you don't get, Xmas made AoE stronger? Kinda. The single time... Well, here's what I want to understand. Time-worn Traveler, you say that it made single target and melee stronger. Why? Why do you think that? Don't worry, Cosmo. It's not on my A-slot build, so it'll just be sat off the end. At least I'm sure. Now you made me question it. Dang it. Yeah, it's not my A-slot. There we are. We're fine. Putting that poison in my head. Alright, now we're going to do this again. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to do this again. Again, taking off the arcane, because I want to mitigate the amount of damage I'm doing in the same fair manner. We've got Bane of Corpus, we've got magnetic damage. Did you miss the AoE talk? It's happening at the moment, mate. But you have missed most of it, because the stream started a couple hours ago. So now let's do that same mission, okay? Let's do that same mission. And I was just firing rockets there. I actually did not run even slightly low on ammo. Obviously assisted there by Carrier, but I didn't even use Lavos' abilities.
Accept your death. And
so now let's do that again.
Trust in your training.
You know what? I'm going to be really tricky. Yep, there we are. I can shoot through walls. I got one of them. And you see, I can confidently kill them. It's working through. Oh, he's not dying. I want that one dead. Where did he go? There we are. In case a shield Osprey just undoes all that hard work. Now, does anyone else feel like this is a lot slower? Like this is just not getting anywhere near as far as fast? Because I certainly feel like it's not getting anywhere near as far as fast. How I have to actively aim at them to nail stuff. I mean, like, I could be running past, but it is significantly harder to be accurate enough for that. Tom will try to say, because weapons that can take out one target quickly will kill the Xmas more quickly. That's a great idea if single target weapons did more damage than AoEs. Earlier in the stream I proved that that's not the case. Most single target weapons simply do not do more damage than AoEs. This Sonora Prime here, fully modded to the max that I have achieved on it, actually deals less damage per second per target than my Tenet Envoy, modded as I do. My Tenet Envoy was doing 65% more damage per second. It's front-loaded because I fire one rocket and then just move on. Whereas this I have to continuously aim, and the Tenet Envoy has an AoE, so it's hitting multiple enemies at once. Single target being more damage than AoE is a lie. With very few exceptions, like, for example, Rubico Prime, which is an actual sniper rifle, not all weapons. It took me 2 shots to kill with the Tenet Envoy, doing the same kind of approach, and those 2 shots would kill multiple enemies at once. You can see here how that's not really working out for me. Let's get rid of that one. So he's buffing shields. Now let's work our way through him. It appears there is another shield Osprey ruining my day. Oh, and he's healed up because I turned to go shoot that one. And that's with the magnetic procs on him. And that's not a Guardian. I'd really like it if a Guardian spawned. Let's just get that off me. Come on, come on, come on, thank you. And you see, I'm having to transfer between them. Which is, again, AoEs just don't do that. It just hit the group of them at once. Now, I'm doing this modded down just to make it easier to demonstrate the effectiveness of those mods. By making it where the Envoy wasn't overkilling. Come on, come on, you're a single target. One guy, surely. Surely I can hurt you enough for this to matter. Also, I'm beginning to run a bit low on ammo. Try Toxin? If I try Toxin, I will kill quicker. But you know what I'll do? I'll kill quicker with both weapons. This is demonstrative. I know the treasure is not fair, but this is showing that even in what should be the way a single target should be working, even then it's sucking. If you look at this and you think, oh, but if Toxin, you've completely missed the point. If that's what you're taking away from watching this, you're not watching. You're just thinking of ways you could do more damage, rather than recognizing the comparison. This is not the comparison. This is obviously Shadow Stalker being Shadow Stalker. Do I have my Mortalon on me? I do. Is this going to work? Sorry, mate. You need to get out of here. Thank you. You're annoying me. There we are. I don't really have much in the way of thoughts on the Kuba Heck. Alright, where were we? There we are. Killing Corpus. Hoping to find a Guardian Xmas, not gonna lie. You gotta love that the Morzi, I can just pull it out there and it's just slapped. Okay, losing a lot of health here. Not sure why I'm losing quite so much at once. Why am I losing so much health? What is shooting me? Why am I losing that much health at once? Come on, Lavos. Tank better than that. Jesus, why is hitting me so hard? Is it you? Oh, I've got a cold proc. Oh, and I'm out of Tenora ammo. Yeah. I am out of Tenora ammo. Game over. I mean, I could use an ammo pizza. I could rely on Lavos' abilities. I'd say rely on Carrier's, but Carrier has already been here this entire time. So, we're out of ammo. We've been killing slower, and then we've run out of ammo. Yeah. I think Carrier Prime has the looter mod on, but it doesn't have the ammo case on. I'll have to double check. Can't finish the mission? I can finish the mission, but my demonstration is complete. That didn't even become slightly close to the Tenet Envoy. And the Tenet Envoy, I had not even perfectly modded there. I had specifically modded it to be demonstrative by making them both magnetic. Because, you know, you think, where else are you going to use magnetic? That should be the one place for it, right? Oh, no bueno. Let me just double check. Did Carrier have ammo case on it? I don't think it... Oh, no, it did, yeah. That was with ammo case on Carrier. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Android, you have an obsession with the Kuva Heck at the moment. Not looking to do that. Demonstration. If you have to pick very specific target weapons to counter the power of AoE weapons, you're looking for an exception that proves the rule, not the other way around. So saying this brings me an idea. Single target weapons should have a lot more status chance. I was maxed out on the status application there. Look at this. My status chance here on this modded Tenora Prime is 38.4%, and we're delivering 17 shots per second with a multi-shot of 1.9. If we just multiply that up, 0.384 for the status chance, 1.9 for the multi-shot, and 17.1 for the fire rate, that delivers 12.47 to 12.5 status procs per second. We grab the Tenet Envoy with the same downset build, and per target, we've got the status chance of 24%, the multi-shot again of 1.9, the fire rate of 0.667. That comes out to 0.3 per second, putting the Tenora Prime 1.476. Answer. Tenora Prime putting out 41 times the status effects. Tenora Prime was definitely putting out a lot more status than the Tenet Envoy there. Tenet Envoy is an exceptional targeted weapon. It's not a targeted weapon, it's an AoE weapon. Targeted as in you have to target enemies. This is when you don't have to target enemies. Is there a single target weapon suitable for Steel Path, not considering sniper rifles? There are some which will work on Steel Path, but it becomes a problem of actually getting there. The Tenora I used downranked, I was using specifically worse situations there. If we had Galvanized Chamber, and if we had, for example, Primary Merciless on there, I'd be carrying more ammo, and I'd be using ammo more efficiently. So it would be more effective. Remember, that comparison wasn't the best Tenora Prime. That comparison was two weapons held down a bit to be able to compare what they can actually achieve, like for like. It's demonstrative. This is again why I avoid using complex demonstrative stuff in videos, because half of everyone in the comments goes, but wait, hang on, you could have used this mod. I'm like, yes, I could have used it on both of them, and then we'd still be in the same position. It's called demonstration. Looks like single target's not even worth it unless mastery rank. Exactly, that's the point. That's what it comes down to, is that if you want to be effective, if you want to be efficient, if you want to be fast, AoE is just so much better in every single way. It just is. It does more damage, it has infinitely better application, it doesn't have ammo issues because of just how effective it is. And yet, none of the drawbacks are there. So if you want to have fun with a non-AoE weapon, you can, but you accept that things will be slower, things will be less rewarding, aside from the intrinsic having fun, obviously, less tangibly rewarding. You accept that things will be more difficult because enemies that live longer can shoot at you more. If you are taking the time to slow down to aim, enemies will be more accurate at hitting you, so you'll need to tank more, or control more. Why not make single target better? In what way would you make it better, Solar Erebus? That is so vague of a question. That's like, you've started the discussion question. You've gone 40% of people say they think AoE is a problem, so why not make single target better? That's how early in the discussion that question is. Single target needs to be a one-shot kill for it to be worth it. Again, scale that. If you make a weapon that is strong enough to compete on the Steel Path, then it is annihilating everything lower level than it. What level do you balance it to? Antinoth. When I shot the Corpus, you'll notice that the first time they didn't die to the Tenet Envoy, yet their shield was completely removed. And that is the comparison. Because despite the amount of toxin damage you're seeing there, that toxin damage was basically nothing. it was a piss in the wind compared to the amount of magnetic damage being employed. That is why I downranked it to compare the stuff. Look at this here. 8,240 magnetic, 870 toxin. Hey, come on. If you thought that was changing the math that substantially, you're missing what you saw on screen. But the sheer amount of damage output was not coming from toxin bypassing the shields, because if it was that significant, by the time we wiped out the entire shields, the enemy should have been dead. The fact that they were still alive after losing their entire shield shows that the toxin was not making that much of a difference. So saying a big part of why AoE weapons are so powerful is hunter munitions. Okay, let's break down this one. A few people have mentioned hunter munitions. Let's break down this one. Hunter munitions is very powerful because it skips the requirement to have slash, and it skips the requirement to have status chance. Any high crit, high damage weapon can benefit from hunter munitions, at least in the primary slot. Any of them. So anything that just has a lot of damage can benefit from that. You didn't see the Tenet Envoy run? Well, there we are then. Better to... Let me just have a look here. Again, let me focus on stuff. So Antonov, you came in, you said, doesn't your Tenet Envoy have toxin damage? Question mark. I agree that the AoE weapons are stronger, just saying that there's a difference in the weapons you're comparing. Probably best not to come in with that kind of a thing if you haven't actually seen the full comparison, you've seen part of it. Question stuff, ask about, but if you're saying, just saying, it does come across rather like you've come to a conclusion, not still in the I'm trying to understand stage. Just saying, you know, so you understand. You see how that comes across. That's not asking for info. So saying, yeah, that's a problem, so just make hunter munitions single target only, like Galvanized Aptitude. Hunter munitions, if we made it single target only, that's absolutely an option, yeah. I don't think it's a good option overall, because... Well, I wasn't even using hunter munitions against the Corpus there. Hunter munitions applies a damage over time effect, which is helpful overall. It's a damage over time effect which skips armor, which is specifically great for the Grineer. But it's a damage source. It more matters to the style of weapon you're using. If you're using a high crit low status weapon, or a high crit low slash weapon, hunter munitions is amazing. If you're using an AoE status focused weapon, not so much. Like for example, I don't know, the Ogress. Goover Ogress, which is absolutely bonkers great, but its crit chance is pathetic. Does single target work on Amprex? Amprex is a multi-hit weapon. So it's not single target, but it's also not AoE. It's a multi-hit. Alright, Antonov. That's fine. If you have 180% crit chance, does it have more chance of blocking hunter munitions? No, it stops at 100%. It stops at 100%. So this hunter munitions here, it says 30% chance to apply slash on critical. If you've got over 100% critical chance, you are always landing a critical, but that's it. It's a crit at that point. The mod doesn't care how much of a crit it is, it just says, oh hey, you crit. Activate 30% of the time. Over 100% crit chance isn't useless though, it does improve your critical tier. So I've got a 5.1% chance of having a double bonus here. So instead of a 7.2 multiplier, that would be a 13.4 multiplier. 5% of the time, or 5. You get what I'm saying. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to the whole AoE meta concern. Some people are concerned that they go into missions, and despite having the gear themselves to do the missions, because someone else came in with an AoE weapon, the other person's doing the mission for them. They're like, how is that equal? How is that fun? And they feel like they can't go into a public mission and still partake in the mission because someone else just flew through carpet bombed. Other people are upset with the AoE meta because of the screen noise it creates, how there's just explosions everywhere. You get the Kuva Ogress or the Kuva Brahma or the Kuva Tsar on a Mirage, for example. Good luck seeing your screen again if they're near to you. Some people will say, oh, but new players, if they see someone really powerful, they'll look up to them. And to an extent, yes. Like I said earlier, I did that with Equinox Prime. When I was MR, 2? I saw someone annihilating a mission with Equinox Prime. I was like, whoa, I want that frame. That is amazing. I want it. But if I'm at the level I am now, I'm like, I want to try something different. I want to use something single target. Let me grab the Fenwar. I just need to get some headshots so I can get some charge on it and everything is dead to the Kuva Tsar. On the other player. Fine, I'll follow behind and pick up the reactant. So there is the group play aspect, there is the screen noise aspect, there is the aspect that you can't just tune AoE damage and call it a day, because Warframe exists across all levels. If something works at Steel Path, it's going to annihilate in all of the relic fissures, but we have to keep doing relic fissures if you want to get prime parts. It's not optional content if you're trying to get everything in that way. Unless you are happy to just buy everything off someone else, you have to engage with low level missions. What if they made AoE weapons have 0 crit chance, but you can still use Arcane Avenger, but it's only 45%? I mean, I don't even know where to begin with that one, to be honest, because that is basically just taking AoE weapons and just binning their damage, but only to an extent. Because yeah, sure, if you're up on the Steel Path, well, you've just lost what's that? 6/7 of your damage? How much is that? Like 85% of your damage gone? Yikes. On everything low level, you still just annihilate anyway, even without the crits. You will sooner make a weapon non-viable for high levels than balanced for low levels because of the sheer level scaling. So yeah, Sol Erebus, reminding of a point that was brought up earlier. I've got to write that one down, actually. That was a great point from a couple of you guys earlier. Let me make sure I don't flashbang you guys as I write this down. Pausing stacks on galvanized mods and similar buffs when switching weapons. So just to go over that one for anyone who's missed that from earlier. One of the issues I raise on the whole ways you can get around the AoE meta and make it fun for everyone is that you could make it where you could use an AoE weapon but have an incentive to also use a secondary single target weapon for, say, high value targets. One of the difficulties of introducing such a thing and keeping it balanced is that if you're constantly using an AoE weapon, like this one here, well, Galvanized Chamber is going to be stacked up and Primary Merciless is going to be stacked up. If I then switched over to my single target weapon like Magnus Prime here, well, poor old Magnus, I've not stacked up crosshairs. I've not stacked up... Why has it got barrel diffusion? Because I've not got the room to fit it. Right, I'll need to fix that. But if I had Galvanized Diffusion on that, it wouldn't be charged up. Secondary Deadhead, not charged up. They could make it where instead those timers paused when you switch weapon, then you'd always have them available. Switching weapon would no longer make it where those buffs just run out and you're like, oh, why did I switch weapon? Now I'm just bad at the game. His idea, Radial Blasts leave enemies at 1 hit point, that shuts down AoE play. I really, 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 really do not want to make any change that just turns around and says to people who use AoE weapons, no. You cannot have fun that way. You are doing the game wrong. I don't want to do that. I don't want to make any such suggestion along that line because a lot of people enjoy it. I enjoy using my Tenet Envoy. Don't get me wrong here. I've been talking for nearly 3 hours about this topic. I enjoy using the Tenet Envoy. I enjoy using the Kuvanukor, the Icarius, the Glaive Prime. Look at my top weapons here. Sort by usage. My top stuff, Fullmin. Not a classical AoE, but it is a multi-target weapon because it's got infinite body punch through and a wide body projectile. It's a corridor killer. AoE. Glaive Prime. Does anyone need teaching how AoE that is? Tenet Envoy, AoE. Cronin Prime, AoE. Amprex, multi-target. Many of my top things are multi-target ones. I like using them, but they push out the other options. Did Dean mention something about the AoE stuff? CBD draw? Yes, but nowhere near as amazing as you might be thinking. Once again, everyone, we're about to get flashbanged. Sorry. You guys who live your entire lives in dark mode need to get used to it. There we go, flashbang. Yeah, CB Draw, this is what they said. They said, in response to a thread about an issue that AoE has caused, at a very important point, they said, TechnoCon is a day away, but once the dust settles, we're going to compile and review all threads and comments on the AoE meta to plan for ways to address concerns. That's it, that's all they've said. They're going to gather up the comments to look at a way they can talk about it and address concerns. That's it. That's all they said. And that was on a thread where someone pointed out, look, the Furax ribbon disposition got nerfed because loads of people are using the Amalgam Furax body count mod, which isn't affected by the ribbon disposition. People using this mod here for 20% blast radius on specialized launchers will still keep using it, but people who wanted to use the Furax, a non-AoE weapon, they got nerfed because the AoE meta was using this mod. So yeah. Capital Linus saying Envoy has 100 impact and 640 cold explosion, Tenet plasma with 760 rad damage. Envoy still does more. Keep in mind, Cuba Tenet weapons much better status than most other weapons, much better stats than most other weapons. They do have improved stats. You'd still expect there to be some comparison between the Cuban Brahmin that came out a year before the Sonora Prime, and yet the Sonora Prime is just eclipsed by every single one of these other options. Not even slightly, it's eclipsed. Let's be Adro saying, in my opinion, it's the content. For example, endurance disruption requires a single target. That's an interesting case there. That is a very interesting case. Against disruption, you would think single target is actually an overall better choice. But it's not really. Benadro, however I pronounce your name, I'm very British and therefore your name doesn't look very English to me, so I will struggle to get it correct. But Benadro, how do you think single target is better than AoE? How do you think it is better? Are you talking about a sniper rifle? Or are you talking about all single target is going to be better for dealing with demolishers? Because the fact of the matter is that AoE weapons, as we've gone over multiple times on this stream, have more damage, even on a single target, let alone AoE. And whilst you're AoEing the target, you also are then killing the additional stuff around them. So, yeah. There are many ways that things could be mitigated. I would like to see AoE have its radius affected by line of sight. I do think that is important. That is very important as a thing to mitigate just how brain dead it is for firing. Keep the explosion, but require it to actually be targeted at an enemy is a big starting point. Second, the range, I'd say, really needs to come down. This mod is a mistake. I do agree with that now. What about boss content today? Like Eidolons and Orbs? They are very tiny parts of the content of this game overall. Very tiny parts of the content of the game overall. You say about the Orbs, and for the, what do you call it? For the Profit Taker Orb, a lot of the time you're not even using your conventional weapons. You're using heavy weapons. Hell, I use my Necromech for a lot of that fight. You know, the Archibeks for that big old AoE. Those would be two big ones. The line of sight changed to AoE weapons. Ratcha saying problem line of sight in Warframe is fucky, and the slightest wire on the ground can negate the whole thing. Yeah, Ratcha's that can actually be mitigated The way that AoEs will work in some games to mitigate that is they actually don't just raycast line of sight. They raycast line of sight plus a short distance. That distance isn't enough to go through walls, but it is enough to go through an errant wire. So if you have an AoE which has technically line of sight plus 0.3 punch through, then that at least checks for tiny things that shouldn't be blocks, like the slightest edge of a wall, like a Grenier's gun happening to fall from its corpse, not blocking the shot. 0.3 punch through is a suitable check. You actually see this in effect. I believe Ember has something like, I'm not sure on the exact value, but it's somewhere around about half or 1 meter of punch through on her line of sight check for Ember's 4th ability, which is why you sometimes hit enemies which are clearly behind cover. What's my opinion on the Spore Lacer? It's an exceedingly powerful gun again. Same kind of thing. The Spore Lacer, I haven't got as much use out of it. I was a while in making it. It's a more recent weapon than a lot of the ones I've used, and I didn't want more AoE to be so overbearing in the arsenal. And yet even then, you can see it's not far down my usage list compared to a lot of stuff in the secondary department. You know, that's where the list starts for me. And all the way up here is my Spore Lacer. How much dev effort would it take for D to untangle the spaghetti enough to implement that? None at all. As I just said, it exists already for Ember. If DE can't make that change, then they need to look at how they did it for Ember. It already exists. They've already got the tech for that. Does the Tenet Envoy do less flat damage than AoE weapon? It's not Cuvit Tenet AoE. Sorry, that's a lot of modifiers to your question at once. Android saying, does the Envoy do less flat damage than any AoE weapon that's not a Cuvit or Tenet AoE weapon? Or specifically any Prime AoE weapon? Right, so we're looking for a Prime AoE weapon that does more base damage than the Envoy. That's what you're asking for. Oh my lord. Do I have one? Not AoE, not AoE, not AoE, not. Well, kind of, but not really. Got a range of 2.4. We don't even talk about that one. Not. Does this one have a radial? Yeah. Here we go. Basically no crit on it though, but it's got 2,200 base. Just no crit on it, so it doesn't get that crit multiplier. No. I don't think it does. No. No. No, the primes are kind of lacking in the AoE department. The primes are kind of lacking. But one way or the other, Rich, as whether it's temporal or something else, it's something that DE should absolutely be able to implement because punch through is already a mechanic they use in the game, so the ray casting for punch through should be there as well. That's a fix. Remove the crit. We've been over that, Draco. We've been over that. Just taking a 0 off the damage doesn't fix it. It just makes it where AoE becomes non-viable at the high levels, but still absolutely causes all the same problems still at lower levels. Which we also partake in even as high-level players because that's where the content is, like for example Void Fishers. Here's 03AUG saying, is the issue of AoE in particular, or simply weapons which can kill extremely rapidly like the Kuvanu Core? Is it about the ease you can get kills or the rate? The Kuvanu Core is a multi-target weapon, so it's above above targeted weapons because it can multi-target. Kuvanu Core is also ridiculously powerful in multiple ways. Damage output, status output, the chaining off dead bodies, hitting through walls as a result. It escalates. But it is more to do with AoEs. So, yeah. Do you think you can find a way to exploit Zenith's infinite punch through with my superior Megamind? Not really. I mean, people are exploiting it with the, Eidolons? I never would have thought of that, but I don't do Eidolon hunting. But the Zenith's infinite punch through, at the end of the day, is still single target. It's still single target. Remove the ability for AoEs to go through walls and reduce their range. That should be a starting point, I'd say. That should be a huge starting point. It's still not the be-all and end-all, but it would be a major point to trying to bring AoE to a more manageable position so that other weapons can compete both in the same mission and in just the choices. Mr. Frank Archer, gifted a sub over to Cat Cosmo. Frank Archer, thank you very, very much. I appreciate it, my dude. I have a brand new cup of tea here, in fact, to sip in thanks with. So cheers, mate. With regards to further changes from there, if necessary, I think either removing the ability to block self-stagger, so Prime Sure-Footed and Status Immunity, no longer blocking self-stagger, only every other source of stagger, could be an interesting one, or moving over to self-damage, but that self-damage uses the unmodded stats. So rather than the 4,000 damage and 7.2 crit here, which would do, what, 28,000 damage minimum to blap me with before anything else, instead use the base stats, so it would hit me with 640 or maybe the 2.6 multiplier on that crit. 28% chance of self-damage crit. Maybe it's time to add an optional filter to matchmaking. Depends on the average kills of the equipped weapons. Ooh, no, we do not want to be splitting the player base either. We've already got plenty of people going solo because they don't like playing in groups. Splitting the player base further, just yikes. I wouldn't be a fan of that, no. Because that then also swings the other way. If you've got a filter limiting it, people will ask for a filter minimize for the minimum as well. They'll say, no, sorry. You only get 5,000 kills per hour. I need someone who can get 6,000. Elitism starts crawling into it. We got enough of that already. The Eidolon community. Yeah, Homespawn. Like I say, there's enough reasons to split the player base and reduce group play already. We don't want more reasons to do that. What about having Steel Path Void Fishers with higher drop rates? Doesn't do a single thing to change the weapons, but okay. Why do they not have a toggle to turn off radio weapon effects? Yeah, it's funny you should mention that. We actually do have some options to mitigate that. If I just search for effects, yeah, you see this option here, reduce teammate visual effects. I have it on. I know, Leonly, it's fine. I'll be wrapping up. We have this option here. I have it on permanently. Permanently, I have this on. In all of the videos you'll see me record over the last, what, a year plus since I've known about this thing, it's been on. Would you guys have said, from the gameplay you have seen from me, from the video footage I have shown in my videos, in my streams, would you have seen that this is on? This is the actual one for mitigating it. This, you can slide right the way down, which will make the visual effects from various things like AoE weapons only 10% opaque. 90% transparent at that point. You basically get rid of almost the entire amount of the effects. There'll still be some that shows up, it's not gone entirely, but this reduces it right the way down. And this will make it a lot easier to see what you're doing, except it also doesn't. Because if you do this, you also make nearly invisible the effects from Xmas units. They are affected by this. So those bubbles you absolutely need to get out of the zones of, now also are nearly invisible. And certain objectives like Vitaplast in Void Flood stop glowing. Their glow is a visual effect. Let me show you just how much of an effect this has. I was really annoyed when I found out this. Really annoyed. Affects Fashion 2? Yep, true, it affects things like Ephemera. But let me show you just how much of an effect it has on Void Flood. Let's just quickly go to this one. We're wrapping up this here to show why even AoE's visual effects are significant for people. Let's make our way here. I should have been using Wukong because I'd get there faster, but who cares? Actually, I should have been using Titania. But we're just doing this to demonstrate. So, if I just stand here, you can see that going around. Let's see, where's the rest of the Vitaplast? Let's start looking around for Vitaplast. Can you see it quickly where there is Vitaplast for me to grab? Can you see it quickly whilst I'm looking around where it is? Alright, now let's fix that. It is the effect intensity. Now let's bring that back to normal. Okay, 101, whatever. Now let's have a look. Oh, it's right there. Oh, we got some more over there. Oh, there's an Xmas unit attacking me as well. Yeah. So if you are trying to see through the medley of effects going on, you'll notice that things are now quite a bit harder to see. Because the glow, the very thing made to stand them out, I didn't even realise these ones are spawning around me, is gone. Yeah. Oh, you can set it to 0 by clicking onto it? I actually didn't know that. I thought a slider was a slider, not something I could type into. Interesting. Hold on, let me just check that. Huh. I'll have to see how much that actually... if it actually does get to 0 at some point. Okay. That's curious. Will this talk be on YouTube? So the whole stream will be over on my extra channel. If you check out !replays, it will end up there. Can learn a thing? Yeah. That's why I have these discussions with you guys on stream. I love when you guys can teach me new things, like pointing out the Vitaplast is attached to effect intensity. I love it when that got brought up. Garacop. Cheers. So, AoE is too strong, too wide-reaching, it affects balancing, including things like ribbon dispositions, and I'm sure it also affects the balancing metrics for how quickly players are getting loot, certain resources. It makes it where group play is problematic, both for how quickly your allies are killing the entire room, stopping single-target players from enjoying the game, and also from the effects that it's plastering into your face the entire time. I feel that AoE has gotten off the hook for far too long with a lack of drawbacks, the only real drawback being self-stagger, which we just get rid of. At any level of play can just annihilate. There are a lot of bits that can be changed, but slowly, carefully, and crucially, I do not want AoE taken away from anyone. AoE as a playstyle, whether you are carpet bombing, speed gonging, or what, AoE as a playstyle should still exist. It just needs to calm down a little bit. It really does. Alright, I think that is where we're going to wrap up on that one. We have covered like the majority of every point I have on my books here, if not every point, every bit I wanted to go over. If you feel like I have missed something important to this discussion, make sure you are over on Discord, !Discord for a link to that one there. Because, yeah. That is definitely the place for more long-form discussion. I know Twitch chat is not the best place for discussing things. Absolutely head on over to the Discord there for these kinds of discussions, plus the much more positive things as well. You know, talks builds, talks about memes, everything's over there. We got channels for everything needed. Make sure you are over there, guys. But I think it's about time we do a platinum giveaway. If you haven't already typed !ticket into the chat, go ahead and do that. Give yourself a chance to get some platinum. Why not? It doesn't matter what platform you're on. Whether you're on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, or Switch. !ticket to give yourself a chance to win it. I'll give you guys just a minute on that one there. Carpet bombing made me think of Zephyr with the Basil Geeks theme. Yeah, Zephyr does certainly come to mind with the whole carpet bombing, especially with their bonus to crits in the air. Yeah, Zephyr is definitely someone you don't want to take stuff away from. They've been buffed and buffed to get them to a place where they're actually a brilliant frame now, Zephyr. We don't want to start taking things away from them now. That would be rude. That will be rude. So I'll give you guys just a moment more to grab your tickets if you've not already done so. I've seen Nazurko's already got a ticket. The Unknowns grabbed their ticket. Here's 03AUG22 grabbed their ticket. You're only saying this is the first stream I've watched, by the way? I watched all the way, sorry. I was going to say, I swear I've seen your name before, but yeah, first stream you've seen all the way. Fair do. Fair do. Zephyr really loves AoE and punch through the tornadoes. True. True. Alright, I think that is enough time for people to grab tickets. If you haven't done it already, then tough. Android, you've already got one. B14700 just snagged one. Yeah, I'm going to close it there. I'm going to close it there. That's enough time. If you haven't got one already, well, the stream's been going for more than 3 hours. So today, chat, the winner of the Platinum giveaway is going to be taking that 75 plat and putting it to whatever they want on their account. That is... How am I supposed to pronounce that? Is that Jason Hilbra 5? I'm going to go with Jason Hilbra 5. JSNHLBR 5. I really don't know how I'm going to pronounce that one. The Unknown, you can have your points back on that. I'm not going to switch to music right now. Jason's fine. Hey, at least I figured it was Jason. There we are. There you are. Of course, Louis, yeah. So Jason, congratulations. You are the winner of today's Platinum giveaway. I'll be sending you a message here on Twitch in a few minutes, just after the stream goes down, to get your Warframe username and platform. So make sure you do respond to that message, Jason. And everyone else, right? And that is, well, as I say, where we're going to be wrapping it up. We're going to be raiding on over to another part of the Warframe community now, guys. Let's see where we can head on over to today. Who we're going to show some love and support to in Warframe is the question. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's see, who can we go to? Went to Neonest last time. Not going to whatever that thing is. Goodness gracious me, no. Who we got? Dear Friday for the winning vote. Oh yes, if you are a subscriber, make sure you are checking out the Supporter Tea Lounge on Discord to see what game we'll be streaming on Friday. You know what? I'm not sure I wanted to raid today, because we did Neonest just last time. But at this point, I'm not sure who we're gonna raid. I'm really not sure. So you know what? I'm just gonna break someone's mind. I'm gonna scroll down the list. I'm gonna find someone who is absolutely not expecting a raid. We're gonna break someone's mind today. Let's see about a mind to break. Oh, here we go. Someone who also calls it a Warframe Wednesday. Let's just give this a quick look. I'm just going to check the stream, guys. Make sure it is an appropriate one. And that they are still streaming. Yeah. Yeah, let's just mess with this guy. Let's absolutely make their day by bringing all of you wonderful people over there. Yeah, I like to mix it up. When it's the Mind Breakers, we're going to different peeps. Which Discord channel is suitable for such a discussion? For just general Warframe meta, that'll be Warframe main. It'll be the best place on that. But guys, that's all on the stream today. We're heading over to another stream to absolutely blow their mind. I want you to be on your best behavior. Show them what we're all about, guys. That's all from me. Catch you next time. Bye.